It's another beautiful day. Welcome to the 10th day of the 10th month. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I'm doing this today with Bernice Abubedu-Lanza. Welcome aboard on the AM show. Now, coming up today, of course, shortly we'll be serving you with the news with Pakwesi Shandov. But right after that, it's the news review, and we'll be joined by Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleimana Brahima, who will join us as our guest. Then we get into our big stories. Now, we'll be talking about the PIAC semi-annual report, and findings reveal irregularities in the oil and gas sector, a plethora of that. We'll be getting into all the details this morning as we host our guests. Now, following the acquisition of 7% in terms of the Jubilee and 10 fields by GNPC in 2021, this was later ceded to its subsidiary, Joel made its first lifting of over 944,000 barrels on the Jubilee field in H1 2022, amounting to some $100 million. This amount was not paid into the Petroleum Holding Fund, contrary to Section 6E of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. We'll be bringing you more details on that as we probe that all-important matter. But also on the show, we'll be talking about the winner and first runner-up of the 2022 Ghana Teacher Prize. Stella Jima Labi, a literature teacher at the Adenta Community JHS, emerged the overall national best teacher for 2022. And guess what? She's a facilitator on Joy Learning. We'll be interviewing her. Again, Fati Isifu, an English teacher at the Bwipe Girls Model School in the Central Gonja municipality of the Savannah region, came up as the first runner-up. We'll bring you details of all of that. But then we'll also go the other way and talk education still, but with a focus on the preliminary contest for the National Science and Math Quiz, which starts, guess what, today. We'll hear from the organizers, Primetime, and sponsors, APSA Bank. Well, today being a Monday, we'll bring you Drive Safe and a host of other matters. But guess what? This week, the Energy Ministry and partners are organizing the Clean Cooking Forum. This forum provides an exceptional platform for discussions and networking opportunities beyond the formal agenda. This year's forum will facilitate a range of action-oriented side meetings led by the Clean Cooking Alliance and partners working in Ghana and around the world. And then, finally, we tell you about the International Defense Exhibition and Conference, which will be held on October the 11th and 12th. And this is under the auspices of the Ghana Armed Forces. Well, you don't want to miss that. Stay with us, share your thoughts via social media. The hashtag is AM Show, and do call when we activate the phone lines, because this show is all about you. Thank you for making the time. Up next, the news with Pakwesi Shandov.
It's another Monday morning, and as always, it's my pleasure to serve you the news. Now, Member of Parliament for Infantiman Ophelia Mensah Hayford is urging traditional leaders and other stakeholders to play a pivotal role in the education of children in the country. Speaking at this year's Otre Festival of Chiefs and People of Anmabo in the Central Region, the MP bemoaned how Ghanaian values and discipline are being left behind in the education of children. She says the situation, if unchecked, would destroy the country's youths. There's more in the following report.
This year's Uchill Festival, the MP, Ophelia Mensah Hayford, said the country's rich culture is gradually being abandoned and the situation is progressively breeding indiscipline in our schools. It is not really surprising that the chiefs and the people here base the theme for the occasion on discipline and education. We have been told that discipline is becoming an issue in our schools in the Central Region. It is true that the big and the best schools are in the region. We need to go back and get the things right. Chairman of CEOs Ghana and an indigene of Salpon, Ernest de Graft Eje, also bemoaned the lack of discipline in our schools. The developed world has developed because they are disciplined. Without that, nothing better could be achieved. As we move forward, we need to look at the issue of discipline again. I will plead that discipline should be seen as one of the key performance indicators. We should not only be fixated on funding, but we should look at the issue of discipline.
As one of the KPIs for education without discipline really is nothing to write home about.
The paramount chief of Anmabo traditional area, Kantamanto Amonu the 11th, urged the youth to exhibit the virtue of selflessness and patriotism to help build the traditional area. Anmabo should have been like Dubai. There are many great things that lie ahead of us. There are many things that we can do here to support the development of the country. I will plead with the youth not to make money their central focus. The occasion was used to honor students and personalities who distinguished themselves during the year. Reporting for Joy News, Richard Kwejenyako, Cape Coast.
The Bono Regional Office of the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission has replaced about 38 rotten electricity poles that threatened residents of Salam Krom, a farming community in the Nkranza South Municipality. Regional Manager of the PURC, Patrick Entry, emphasized that the Commission would continue to monitor existing poles in the region and ensure that the threats of rotten poles are fully resolved by NEDCO. Anasabet reports.
In all, a total of 38 rotten poles were replaced in Salam Krom, a predominantly farming community in the Nkranza South Municipality of the Bono East region. This comes after members of the community reported the risk posed by the poles to the Regional Office of the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission. Edward True is a former assemblyman for the community.
The former to say to chances so. The BI report, yenya answer. Media crowd ye. Let me through say a bugu chances wa a bit mash fieno. Bit mash say name everybody. Intino na a you. To the Bia Quenya, the Bia Membania Quenya Columbiano, the Covier officer. Man Cocrano, my more than 19 times. Peninfoso Abeshasa Cha, Pusunu, Abrum Pembebre, but Naneso, Yamiadum, Etimi Abasa Maya.
Regional Manager of the PURC, Patrick Entry, whose timely intervention led to the replacement of the poles, noted that the Commission would continue to monitor existing poles in its operational area to ensure that such issues are resolved.
Most of the time, these are some of the things that makes us happy as a Commission to see communities who have had issues like this for a very long time and having their issues resolved. We do this just to make sure that the right quality of service is being experienced by all our consumers. However, we always make sure that we monitor all jobs that are done by the utilities so that no job is done in a way that consumers are shortchanged.
He further urged community members to ensure that materials used by SHEP contractors are standard to avoid the issue of replacing them few years after the project implementation.
We're educating all communities that are under the SHEP project to also monitor and make sure that the right materials are being used by contractors. In any case, when there's a project going on in their area, they should quickly alert VRA so that they can also come in and inspect the materials that are being used.
Techiman Area Manager for NEDCO, John Tahiri, on his part, acknowledged the efforts made by the PURC and noted that NEDCO remained committed towards satisfying its cherished customers.
You can see the happiness among the people, and that is what NEDCO stands for. We are representing the customer, we supply the customer needs, we have purpose to satisfy our customers, and that is what we have come here to demonstrate.
However, charged policymakers to ensure that materials used in the extension of electricity is of standard quality.
I think our procurement processes must ensure quality. And whoever is in charge of procuring electricity materials, poles, cables or conductors, whatever is required in the connection of power to the people, I think they should ensure quality. Because these substandard materials create emergencies for us, and it is not good for our operations.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Salam Krum.
Residents of Central Kofi Benua in the Guan district of the Oti region would no longer rely on stream water for domestic use. This is because a native of the community has financed the construction of a mechanized borehole to serve the community, which battled with the scarcity of water, especially in the dry season. There's more on this report by Fred Kwame Asari.
The Guan district in the Oti region is faced with a series of challenges, including access to potable water. Residents of Central Kofi Benua were compelled to rely on streams after a water system constructed by Danida some years ago broke down. This has been of a great worry to an illustrious son, Simon Amewuga Tetele Totro, who resides in the United States of America. He then decided to channel resources towards the construction of a mechanized borehole in the community. Godwin Grant Oyinte spoke on Mr. Amewuga's behalf during a short handing over ceremony.
We took this project just because when he came last year, there was water crisis in the community. Even some people went down to his house to fetch water because he has borehole there. And when he saw the situation, he felt bad, and he decided to do something. He constructed a new borehole for the community. Actually, he has a future plan to renovate the water, the old system. The gravitational one, they want to renovate it.
The Chidonhini of Central Kofi traditional area, Nana Kofi Olato IV, was appreciative of the project.
The community is so happy because as some of the speakers said, water is life. And if somebody has provided you with water, it means he has brought life to your home. So we are so much grateful. What we will appeal to the community members or the users of this project is that the culture of maintenance should be practiced.
The Guan District Chief Executive, Janet Emefa Obro Adibo, entreated other philanthropists to emulate the gesture to contribute to develop the district.
We are calling on all our sons and daughters out there who has been blessed by God to also turn and look at the communities. We are lacking a lot because we have been left behind for so long. The youngest, as I said, some communities don't even have water. Excuse my language, latrines and all others. And this big community has only one mechanized borehole, which is this one. So we will need more and many others.
Mr. Amewuga earlier single-handedly constructed a concrete access road in the community. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Central Kofi Benua.
The Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology will soon be engaging the scientific community and policymakers on critical climate change research findings. The Building Stronger Universities Project Phase 3, in collaboration with its Danish partners, is making this possible. This came up during a two-day international conference on climate change resilience, adaptation, and sustainable rural transformation in Kumasi.
The conference was themed Consolidation Climate Change Research and Enhancing Collaborative Actions for a Sustainable Future. It aims to disseminate research works and operate methods of climate change. Professor Robert Clement Abedu is the coordinator of Building Stronger Universities Project 3.
Existing evidence suggests, however, that the vulnerability to climate change is not distributed uniformly across the globe due to fragility of some economies, countries in the global south are especially more vulnerable to the effects of climate change, despite their insufficient contribution to global greenhouse gas emissions. In these countries, women and children are disproportionately affected. Therefore, much of the discourse and recent scholarly and policy undertakings in this region have centered on climate change, adaptation, resilience, and justice.
The Pro-Vice Chancellor of KNUST, Professor Eliso Usudabo, assured of the university's commitment of rolling out climate-responsive actions to support the fight against climate change.
Micro and laboratory services have been increased. The rest are strengthened research, innovation, and entrepreneurship, capacity improvements, improved industry and academia engagements, as well as fostering intra-departmental collaboration. These factors have contributed significantly to KNUST's enviable regional and international reputation.
The BSU3 partner from Aarhus University, Professor Thorsten Rodelbeck, explained the direction of international research collaboration on natural resources management and climate change.
Well, in my keynote, I was attempting to address what it actually takes to become part of the research funding that is currently available, and to do that, I think it's extremely important that researchers are aware of what is it that the calls require, and also understanding the context and the paradigms that actually are the basis for those topics and the funding that is there.
There were sleepless nights in most camps of participating schools as they prepared for their first contest in the 2022 National Science and Maths Quiz. 27 schools will be competing today in the first day of the preliminary stages of the competition. Emmanuel Bride Kweko has been interacting with some of the schools.
New Nisi Optima.
Only the best.
New Nisi Optima.
Only the best.
New Nisi Optima.
Only the best.
So these are the guys from Tabasco, and they are here, right here on KNUST campus for this year's edition of the National Science and Math Quiz. We want to interact with them and then find out how energetic. You can hear from their sound, like they are ready for this year's competition. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready to win?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right, so let me first find out from you. What should we expect from Tabasco?
We should expect nothing but the best. As our name suggests, we are going to give our best at the end of the contest, and we'll carry the day in each contest to the last end.
No matter the amount of press I've done by a lizard, it will never become mature.
Where the lizard is who?
The lizard is the KSTS. No matter the contest they've been to, we are there. You will show them something.
Adeshe. How prepared are you? Are you going to kill your husbands, or you are going to join them again and celebrate as usual?
No. When we meet with them this time, it's a bye for them.
It's a bye, really? Are you cutting down their alliance?
No, please.
Why?
This is a competition, and definitely one person must win.
We've prepared, as we already talked about, and we pray that with all the efforts, our efforts won't be in vain.
Walk back. Walk back. Walk back.
See, we've come here prepared academically, mentally, psychologically, physically, spiritually, every alice.
These are students from Suhum Presby SHS. Your teachers say they are confident in you guys. How confident are you yourself?
By God's grace, we have been going through several practices and we have been training very hard for this day. So we hope to see God's face in this thing. We have been practicing. Day and night, we have been burning the midnight candle and we have been practicing very hard. So we just look up to God for his success.
We should expect the doings of the Lord to see us through to the finals.
What are the doings?
When the time comes, we shall see the doings of the Lord.
Great Sakis. Great Sakis. Your teachers are saying they have a target that will be quarterfinals and above. Are you sure you're going to make it, and what are the preparations so far?
Firstly, I begin by saying Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah amma ba'd. we've said it all, and we don't talk much, as they said.
You're saying actions but not words. So what actions should we expect?
Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will prove it on that day.
Okay, so he said he will prove it on that day. We should expect nothing but actions during the preliminary stage of the competition. Krobo is shining.
Oh, yeah.
Krobo is shining.
Oh, yeah.
Krobo is shining.
Oh, yeah.
I can see you girls are rejuvenated for this year's competition. So how does coming to the nationals again mean to you?
It means a lot because we did our best to try and qualify at the regional stage. So we being here gives us another opportunity to come and show the whole world what we can do.
We've prepared hard and I think we are ready. We know we are ready.
You think or you know? Be specific.
We know we are ready.
How sure are you are ready?
No, 100.
Somebody say 99%. Somebody say 99%. So are you sure? Yeah. Are you sure? Yeah.
Krobo, girls is shining, shining beyond the sky. Oh yes. Krobo, girls is shining, shining beyond the sky. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes.
That'll be all for the news, but of course, look forward to an exciting series of contests. My name is Pakwe Sishandoff. For more, log on to www.myjoyonline.com. The show continues.
Thank you for being here with us. We're going to serve you the finest as it concerns the news review. I'll be joined shortly by Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleimana Brima, and we'll get into all those topical issues this morning. But we have all the papers, a stack of them here, and we'll be getting into them. When Suleimana joins me, there are three major issues I'll be running by him. The first one has to do with that police officer. No, we've not forgotten. We never forget. Who discharged a firearm and nearly, shot the leg of a civilian. Chepepra is his name. He is supposedly attached to the Jubilee House. And the interesting twist is that yesterday at church, they sent a lawyer to this person to withdraw the case from the police station, so further legal proceedings cannot take place. And I think that is cowardly for such an act to be done. If someone engages in such a blatant, flagrant abuse of the law, of his or her office, trying to get the matter out of the legal system is not the way to go. People must face punitive measures. I tried interacting with some high-ups in the police. In fact, one of those who had gone to the scene, he wasn't very comfortable, not very willing to speak. But this matter, I will pursue. Today, I'll be going to the Police Professional Standards Bureau. I've been invited there. I will go there and have an interaction with them. But the Ghana Police Service can be sure that we are not going to, take this lying down. We're not going to allow this to be swept under the carpet. He nearly shot someone. Who knows, next time he could actually shoot someone. It was said that he was smelling, reeking of alcohol. Why should we try to protect such elements? So whether it's going as far as Dr. Akufo Dampare, who is the IGP, or petitioning parliamentarians, or doing whatever it takes, bringing in CSOs, I personally will do that so that justice is served. The other matter I'll be getting into when Suleimana joins me has to do with the US dollar, which has now crossed the 11 Ghana cedi range, 11.2. And we can also talk about the weather yesterday and how the wind brought down billboards here and there. That is becoming quite a problem. The last time I heard, there was a student, I forget whether he was with the University of Ghana, who was crushed, paralyzed, and it was a very sad situation. Yesterday, I saw scenes as well, and who knows, someone's car could have been affected. But as Suleimana, when he joins me, we'll get into all those details. Let's start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Development Bank pumps 245 million Ghana cedis into SMEs, additional 1 billion Ghana cedis in the offing. And that story is on page 20. There's also position Ghana as hub for commercial dispute settlement. And that is according to the GBA president. There's also Nana Grada assisting police over alleged money doubling scam. That's on page 62. And I was listening to some, talk about that entire situation and how time without number, she's been reported to a particular police station almost every week. So how did we allow this to happen? From Sikagari to money doubling. This country, Ankasa, we have real problems. It's 41 days as we count down to World Cup Qatar 2022, and the NAELP makes inroads, 80,000 secure jobs in reforestation. That story, the major one. Let me quickly get into that. And the National Alternative Employment and Livelihood Program, the NILP if you like, has provided jobs for 80,000 people whose lives were dependent on illegal mining and those who were likely to enter that trade. The beneficiaries have been deployed mainly into the Land Restoration and Reforestation Program, the first module of the NAELP. Direct and indirect jobs were created by the program, and while some of the jobs created were permanent, others were temporary. Giving an update 1 year into the program in an interview with the Daily Graphic, the coordinator of NILP, Dr. Louis Carol Sewa-Donko, said all the beneficiaries were from 5 endemic illegal mining communities. She named the communities as Edinkrai and Fufuo in the Ashanti region, Akwa Tiakwaso in the eastern, Akotom in western, and Techere in Ahafo. As part of the program, some of the beneficiaries also helped to nurse and plant 20 million economic seedlings, an initiative which was anchored on the Green Ghana project. In terms of fighting illegal mining, last year, NILP was launched by President Akufo-Addo as part of national efforts to curb illegal mining, otherwise known as galamsey. The objective was to see an exit route for those whose means of livelihood directly or indirectly depended on galamsey, which has become a menace. According to environmental researchers, Ghana lost about 1.41 million hectares of tree cover between 2001 and 2021, an equivalent to a 20% decrease in forest cover, a situation being made worse by illegal mining, even in forest reserves. So while we laud the president for having done this, we also see the sustained menace of illegal mining and how it's only getting worse, not better. How our water turbidity levels are only getting worse, not better. How it is getting worse and worse, basically, for the Ghana Water Company Limited to treat the water we drink. And last Friday, just as before, at the commencement of that week, Erastus Asari-Donko joining us to show us all what our water bodies look like. And I'll keep reiterating this. Even if we stopped galamsey on our water bodies, our rivers and everything, today it would take about 100 years just for the water bodies to return to anything which will give us a semblance of what they were before. We should have stopped this decades ago. Yesterday. We don't have the time. We simply don't. The time to act, Mr. President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is now. Let's get into other stories. Let's turn to page 16. We'll do page 20 and wrap up with some Nana Agrada stories. So, page 16, there is... all right. Position Ghana as hub for commercial dispute settlement. That's according to the GBA president. And the Ghana Bar Association has urged the government to establish an alternative dispute resolution center in Accra that can potentially become the forum of choice for the settlement of commercial disputes in Africa. With the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat located in Ghana, a renowned ADR center, the GBA said, was an advantage the country could explore to position itself as the center of excellence in commercial disputes settlement on the continent. The president, Yahweh Champon-Boafo, told the Daily Graphic in an exclusive interview in Accra last Wednesday that the country should not be satisfied with only the AFTA Secretariat, but also take advantage of other benefits of the Free Trade Area arrangement to enhance development. In other stories, there's also tied to that attacks on judiciary and big issue, that story on page 17. In fact, not a story, it's ordinary Ghanaians sharing their opinions. You can check out the details there. Let's move on now to page 20. And there's Development Bank pumps 245 million into SMEs. Now, the Development Bank Ghana has so far disbursed about 245 million to its partner financial institutions for on-lending to small and medium enterprises. The disbursement started when the bank was set up in July this year. The CEO of the bank, Kwamina Duka, who disclosed this, said the Bank of Ghana in the next 6 to 12 months would further disburse about 1 billion Ghana cedis of medium to long-term capital to support local industries. He said this in an interview with the media on the sidelines of a capacity building workshop for SMEs. And that, of course, is Kwame Duka. Let's get to that other story on page 62 of the paper. There's Nana Grada assisting police over alleged money doubling scam. And the police have arrested the founder of the Heaven Way Church at Weija in Accra, Patricia Siedua, a.k.a. Nana Grada, over an alleged money doubling scam charge leveled against her by some of her church members. Now, that followed viral social media reports showing members of the church who had thronged the premises of the church to demand their money. In a statement issued on October 9, the police said the suspect was assisting the police in investigations into the matter. The police have therefore urged victims of the alleged money doubling scam to report to the Accra Regional Police Command for further investigations. This is not the first time Nana Grada has been in the grips of the police over an alleged scam. You would recall she was arrested in April 2021 after a joint team from the police and the National Security, in collaboration with the National Communications Authority, had raided the premises of her 2 TV stations at Kaswa in the central region over some illegalities. She was placed in police custody initially to assist with further investigations. And that is the story. But for me, I'll say this again. Dr. IGP and the entire security outfit, it is far too easy. The SEC, the SEC, and all bodies, the central bank, it is far too easy for people to scam other people in this country and get away with it for a long time. And even worse, like in the case of Nana Grada, sometimes it's not as though the police had not been in the know. There are complaints time and again, but you would wonder what happens with our system till there's a big bang. There is something blown, explosive. Then we want to act. By which time, people would have lost their money, their livelihoods. Some people would be on the verge of committing suicide and the rest, like we saw with Men's Gold. Why must it always come down to this? Anyway, a word of caution as well, especially when someone is telling you bring 2,000 CDs and I'll double it and I'll do this and in the end I'll give you 1 million. I mean, how can you also possibly believe that? So the level of gullibility in the system is also mind-blowing and we ought to be more careful. Look, Kroma Eshe, so the American own said Antiasia, Kroma Eshe. A man for being more pay bibia or the bay I juica into your steady. The town is hot. People are, these are desperate times economically. So if you just slip up a bit, someone will take advantage of it, take your money away. So let's all be very, very careful. Nowadays, I've noticed, for example, those scam calls are coming in more and more at an accelerated rate. Yes, because people feel the pinch and they want to find all kinds of nefarious ways of getting money. So beware out there. Otoado must be bold in selection. Carr advises Black Stars coach. And then on the back page of the Daily Graphic, Messi, Ronaldo, top stars ready for Swan Song. And of course, the Swan Song talk bit has to do with the fact that this will be their final Mundial, final World Cup. The Argentine magician, Messi, yes, this is going to be his final bit. It's been confirmed. And for Cristiano Ronaldo as well, it is pretty obvious. But how will things turn out? If one of them won the World Cup, now that would be interesting news, capping off a stellar career for both of them. There's also Ghana captain Andre Ayew, who has now equaled the number of caps. I think it's about 109. And this will be for him as well, his swan song. Let's get into the Ghanaian Times newspaper. GRA drags 48 businesses to court over tax evasion, failure to issue VAT invoices for goods and services. There's a story about Nana Grada. There's also Trade Ministry to roll out textiles tax stamp from November 1. And 250 women undergo breast cancer screening at Kaneshi Market Complex. I'll be sure to get into that story. And if you see me in my pink shirt and my kind of violet tie this morning, is because I am with the brand. I am in full support of Pink October. Yes, I am. So let's look at that story on page 16 of the newspaper. It says about 48 businesses are currently undergoing prosecution for evading taxes and failing to issue VAT invoices on purchases of goods and services. According to the Commissioner General of the GRA, Reverend Amishadai Owusu-Amwa, the businesses were put before the tax courts for acting in contravention to Section 80 of the Revenue Administration Act 2016, that is Act 915. He explained that the prosecution of tax defaulting businesses was one of the strategies adopted by the authority to promote tax compliance and enforcement. A bit of data here. As at the end of September this year, Mr. Owusu-Amwa said the GRA had collected 51.6 billion Ghana cedis as against a target of 52 billion. Quote, we fell short of the target by 466 million Ghana cedis. The performance represents nominal growth rates of 29% over the same period, compared to last year's collection of 26%. Domestic revenue grew nominally by 28.6%, while customs revenue grew nominally by 29.8%, he added. So positives in there. And my very own colleague, George Wiafe, if you've not taken a look at the Ghanaian Times newspaper today, there's a bold picture of you with the GRA's boss, Reverend Amishadai Owusu-Amwa. I think I should go and show him this page when we are done. A very lovely, photo with the GRA boss, and that's my colleague George Wiafe there. In other stories, Trade Ministry to roll out textile stamp from November the 1st, and the implementation of the textiles tax stamps policy aimed at tackling the influx of pirated and fake textiles in the country, as well as other challenges in the industry, is slated to commence on November 1 this year. Implementation modalities of the policy, according to the Ministry of Trade and Industry, would include having textiles stamps affixed on all textile prints traded in Ghana. I'm in full support of this, especially looking at just how much of this comes illegally from other countries and how some countries are imitating what we do and just dumping all of it into our system. We're getting fabrics now from China and all of those places, while our own textiles industry is bleeding badly, hemorrhaging money, hemorrhaging everything positive. So I feel this should be a positive step. And as we've seen with the food and beverages industry, that can be done. So hopefully they clamp down on anyone who is not abiding by this as it rolls out. But I hope that enough sensitization is brought to bear so that some of the teething problems we saw when it came to the food and beverages industry, we can avoid them now. After all, it was the same outfits that brought these to bear. We can also wrap up on page 15, breast cancer business. 250 women undergo breast screening at Kaneshie Market Complex, and about 50 to 60% of suspected cases of breast cancer has been recorded during a breast cancer screening for over 250 women at the Kaneshie Medical Center during the Breast Cancer Month campaign. This was disclosed by the medical officer of the Kaneshie Medical Center, Dr. Obed Boama, in an interview with the Ghanaian Times in Accra on Friday. Organized by the New Times Corporation in partnership with other organizations such as Kaneshie Medical Center, Unichem Ghana Group, World Health Organization, and the Kaneshie Polyclinic, the exercise was to create awareness about breast cancer leading to low mortality rates. When the Ghanaian Times got to the medical center at the Kaneshie Market Complex, it observed that some women who had made their way to the place were seated patiently waiting to go through the process. Dr. Boama noted that illiteracy was proving a challenge in the fight against the disease, as he asserted that through his interaction with the women, it came to light that most of them had little or no knowledge about the disease. And that is a major part of the problem. But the worry for me, about 50 to 60% of suspected cases of breast cancer being recorded during a breast cancer screening for over 250 women at the Kaneshie Medical Center. That for me is stark. One problem in our country when it comes to health is the lack of data, the lack of knowing how many people specifically as possible have, for example, HIV/AIDS. We have good data, but it's not foolproof. Like I think the last time I saw about 100,000 people may not even know their status while they may be positive. This is months ago. Same when it comes to tuberculosis. And now when it comes to breast cancer screening as well, the figures that are coming up, especially on the back of a lack of education or ignorance of what to look out for, is very problematic. And you know why some of us would be concerned? Because all of these pose challenges for our health system. And so if we have a lot more people suffering from such, in this case, it could be a terminal illness, unless maybe surgery is performed or chemotherapy helps. It could be quite a drain, even going through these processes on our medical system. But on the back page, hearts humbled by Mali in CAF Confederation Cup competition. They suffered a 3-0 away loss. That's one that I'm not happy about. Yes, I may be a Kumase Asante Kotoko fan, but always when we step out, we would want to wish our local teams the very best. Unfortunately, Hearts could not deliver the goods. We wish them the best in the second leg of the competition. Maybe, just maybe, they can overturn that deficit. Women's Premier League, Thunder Queens stun police ladies. That's it with the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Let's get into the Daily Guide now. And this conversation about the NDC completed 29 e-blocks, they completed 46 and all of that has been resurrected. We are such an interesting country. We have so much to do, and yet we spend time on some of the, silliest things, some of the most trivial debates about who did this and who did that. In the end, governance is a continuum. It's meant to be progressive, but we're always doing NDC did this, NDC didn't do that, MPP did this, MPP didn't do that. Same as we've ended up, teetering on the very edge of economic collapse, and we're still talking about NDC, MPP. God have mercy on Ghana, really. But NDC completed 29 e-blocks. That story on page 3. 2 arrested for robbing NPP women's organizer. Agrada arrested. Controller freezes workers' salaries. That's on page 6. And Nana in France. Let's look at page 6 quickly. So the Controller and Accountant General has suspended the September 2022 salaries of public sector workers whose bank names are mismatched on the Government of Ghana payroll system, or mismatched. The salaries of public sector workers who have invalid bank account numbers on the system have also been suspended pending further directives. The action was taken as a result of a quality assurance and other validation processes undertaken by the Controller and Accountant General's department. Well, I think as a means of stemming the tide of irregularities and payments to people, and I still remember those 3 people who got sums of money to the tune of over 1 million Ghana cedis from the Finance Ministry of all places, ghosts who were drawing from our national kitty, and they weren't even working with the Finance Ministry. This is months ago. We don't forget. We don't forget. What has happened to those 3? What has happened to them? Who were the names behind them? Who was drawing these salaries? We have the bank details, don't we? Interesting country we have. Interesting country. Well, in the entertainment, on the entertainment pages, Kiddy walks off stage. Music sensation Kiddy was left with no choice but to walk off stage during his performance at the University of Cape Coast due to a dysfunctional sound system. That story there. Gifty Owari grabs 40 under 40 award, and the CEO of Ghana Women's Premier League side, Berry Ladies Football Club, Mrs. Gifty Owari Mensah, has won the sports category of the 40 under 40 awards. Congratulations to you, Gifty Owari Mensah. Keep up the good work, especially as it concerns the Women's Premier League. We wish you the very best. There's also Davido promises to marry Chioma. Masa, if you've had children, at least one child I know of, and other things, you go marry Mariam and this one. Anyway, Nigerian musician Davido has made a statement that suggests he would be marrying his baby mama, Chioma Rowland, in 2023. In an Insta story posted by the flamboyant UK-based Nigerian pastor Toby Adeboyega, Davido declared that the nuptials would be next year. We can only wish them the very best. One of the finest artists we have on the continent. On the back page, you can't go to the World Cup home office to ban fans, and Ramos gets 28th red card. I'm talking about Ligue 1 leaders Paris Saint-Germain, who played more than one half with 10 men but salvaged a goalless draw at Stade de Reims on Saturday to extend their unbeaten run this season. Of course, former Real Madrid star Sergio Ramos got his 28th red card. What a career. The Finder newspaper, as we get ready to wrap, after 8 nations kickstart trading with 96 different products, GRA collects 51.5 billion, pledges to seal all loopholes. And Republic Bank launches new product to assist workers buy houses with Tier 3 pensions. That story is on page 9. Republic Press newspaper now. Upon Kroma hails Baumia. There's Baumia Allen Boys clash over accusations of subtle campaign, and Akufo-Addo jets off to France. Let's take those two stories. President Akufo-Addo left Ghana on Saturday, 8th October 2022 to Paris, France for a 6-day working visit to France. President Akufo-Addo will on Monday, 10th October, that is today, receive an honorary award of Dr. Honoris Causa from Sorbonne University in Paris. It will be the third honorary doctorate degree to be conferred on him. And that is the subject matter there. There's also, let me go to page 4. Information Minister and Member of Parliament for Ofuase Ayirebi, Kojo Nkrumah, has described Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia as the brightest spark seen by the NPP. The Ofuase Ayirebi lawmaker said this days ago when the Vice President celebrated his birthday on October the 7th. And so those are the thoughts of Kojo Nkrumah. Let's wrap with these papers. Magdan strikes after deal for trade promotion. That's the Ghanaian publisher. And FDA destroys 10 million Ghana cedis in fake drugs. That is a good thing, especially considering what happened in the Gambia with 66 children dead over that cough mixture issue. Then today, newspaper, Ghana IMF engagement. Even UK went to IMF. So what is the difference? Interesting. You should read that. Galamsey fight government's effort not enough. And Mahama honored in the USA. Those stories in today's newspaper. The Custodian is my final paper. Esiedun Ketia Ampofo, a spark storm in NDC. All of those stories there. OT region grabs huge government projects. You can check out the details from there. But right before we get into sports, I'd like to celebrate 3 people, 3 members of our team who make things happen here. It's their birthday and other anniversaries. Pakwesi Shandov, who serves you the news every morning on the show. Today happens to be his birthday. Happy birthday to you, my brother, and we wish you the very best. Today also happens to be the birthday of Princess Picho on Facebook, Mapito Sibidi. It's her birthday. You are October's own, 10th day, 10th month. Happy birthday to you, and keep being the wonderful human being you are. It also happens to be the wedding anniversary of Derek Ekosam, my producer. We wish you the very best in your marriage, and we pray that there will be many, many, many more happy years and decades to come. Keep being the fun, fabulous person you are. On that note, we draw the curtains on the news review. Up next, sports on the AM show. Do stay.
Muftar Avla here with the AM Sports. We start with results from the Women's Premier League that were played over the weekend. And guess what? It was a weekend that started in a stalemate, but all of a sudden, goals began to flow across all league centers. From the southern zone, Hazakas ladies, they won 1-0 against Berry ladies, despite the... many people have described it as speaking aplenty from the Chief Executive Officer of Berry ladies. They still lost to secondary Hazakas ladies. So Standard Queens also won 2-1 against Police ladies. Soccer Intellectual sat at home and lost 1-0 to Fit ladies. Ladies Strikers lost 4-0 to Army ladies. And Rich City, qualifying to participate in the Women's Premier League for the first time, lost 3-0 to ACM Socrates ladies. And in the Northern Zone, there were also Palpia ladies. They also came against Prison ladies. That game ended 0-0. Tamale Super ladies drew 1-1 against Ashtown ladies. Ampim Dakwan ladies, defending champions, drew 1-1 against Northern ladies. Supreme ladies won 5-0 against Candy Soccer Academy. And Fabulous ladies, they lost 2-3 to Dreams ladies. These are the fixtures for March day 1 in the Women's Premier League that started over the weekend. In Mali, Accra House of Oak were in action in the first leg of their CAF Confederation Cup game against Real de Bamako rather, and unfortunately they suffered a 3-0 loss. They are hoping that the second leg that will be taking place at the Accra Sports Stadium on October the 16th will be a game they will be able to win at least 4-0 and secure qualification to the next round of the qualifying series. That's just by way of update from House of Oaks game against Real de Bamako. They returned to the country on Saturday. They will continue. They returned to the country on Sunday. They will continue preparations today as they seek to beat their opponents 4-0 and progress to the next stage of the competition. In England, there were lots of Premier League action. Bukayo Saka's penalty settled a thrilling encounter and put Arsenal back on top of the Premier League with victory over Liverpool at Emirates Stadium. Elsewhere, Manchester City, they crushed visiting Southampton at Etihad. Chelsea deepened the woes of struggling Wolves, and Manchester United returned to winning ways in the Premier League with 2-1 victory over Everton at the Goodison Park. Cristiano Ronaldo scored his 700th club goal to win the game for Eric Ten Hag's side, who came from a goal down to secure all 3 points. Let's go for the highlights of these matches. I apologize for that blip over there, but let's bring you highlights of matches that were played in La Liga, specifically the matches involving Real Madrid and Getafe, as well as Barcelona against Celta Vigo. Eder Militao, he scored the only goal as Real Madrid secured a hard-fought 1-0 win at Getafe, while Pedri scored the winner as Barcelona also edged past Celta Vigo to return to the top of La Liga on goal difference. Let's go to Serie A, and AC Milan, they secured a 2-0 win over struggling rivals Juventus to stay fourth on the league lock of the Italia Serie A. And this is a wrap-up AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullah.
Here we are again. It is Drive Safe with me, Benjamin Akakpo. We're back at Top Tech Transport and Logistics with Mr. Cecil Gabra. Right before we get into today's topic, and let me just give you a teaser. If you find yourself in places like Kumasi, Accra, Takoradi, Tamale, other places, you would realize that there's a lot of traffic. We're gradually becoming like the Sao Paulos or maybe the Tokyos. The question is, why? There's something we're not getting right. But right before we get into that, so you think you know, but do you know? Here's today's question. Right, so at the tail end of today's segment, as always, you'll get to find out what the answer to the question is. But let me say hello once more to Cecil Gabra, ever patient Cecil Gabra. It said that you should have the patience of an ox or maybe a Buddhist fly fisherman. So thank you for sticking around, staying with us.
Hi, Ben.
Great.
Wow.
Now, traffic. No one likes it. In Kumasi, they call it go-slow. We all face it, and especially around this time, it gets worse. What are we getting wrong as a country when it comes to managing the traffic situation?
Thank you, Ben. We've had it all wrong right from the beginning because our bus rapid transit system never worked. And to be precise, what we know is Ayalolo. Why Ayalolo? If you look at countries that you've mentioned, Sao Paulo, you look at
Brazil.
Yes, Brazil. It's a bus rapid transit system that has saved everybody. Because in Ghana, everybody wants to buy a car. Everybody wants to feel comfortable, but we still use the same roads. We are not, the roads that we have are still the same. We don't have access roads. Okay? Accra is choked, Kumasi is choked. Believe me that I spent 3 hours driving from South La to Adenta, 4:30 to 7:30, going to give a talk, and then, I mean, it was so bad.
When
3 hours. This was just on Monday, 3 days ago. Right, that should tell you that our transport system is failed because of one issue, which is the BRT. And when we talk about BRT, we are talking about having a segregated road. And having a segregated road is simply if you have 1, 2, 3 lanes, the first lane is a no-go lane. No other vehicle can use it except these long buses that can carry between 70 and 90 people in the bus with a lot of stops. So whilst you are in traffic in the dual carriage road, the bus driving on the segregated road comes to pass, and then because, I mean, it's a rapid system. It has its own
dedicated road. So
dedicated
there's no
road.
traffic, there's no, it goes and comes. And it also means you can be on time.
Precisely. Segregated and dedicated roads, that let's put them together. We don't have them here. Why don't we have them here? We have a system failure where people who manage Accra have sold lands. You go to talk to even the groundnut seller, he'll give you a permit to tell you that, yes, I am paying for this. And then he's not moving. The Lotto kiosk, people are building in natural ways that Kwame Nkrumah reserved for this purpose. I'll give you a nice example, which is the Ring Road. The Ring Road, you have the Central Reserve. And those Central Reserves was planned so well for buses, for trams, for the future. So it means that if our BRT system is working, they could have run in the middle where you have an underground bus station, which means that you will not cross the Ring Road. You go underground, you pop up, and straight you sit in your bus and go. So we have failed. We bring in these very expensive buses and we can't manage them. They are ordinary trotros and then they run everywhere. So why do I have to patronize the BRT system? Everybody wants to purchase a car, but if the BRT system is working, then we'll park our vehicles and then time will work. When I was a little boy living in South Latu, the Teshinungwa Estate, bus 17A will come to the bus stop at exactly 3 p.m. By 3:15, there was no traffic. It will be at Teshinungwa. I'll go and visit my uncle. 4:30, it is right at another bus stop waiting. So it was working. So why couldn't we continue? Now everybody wants to own a car, which is nobody's fault. It's because of the system failure that we do not have the BRT working. We have 2 points at the moment, only 2.9 million vehicles in the whole Ghana, but yet...
And we have this much traffic.
Yes, and we have this traffic. So what else must be done? It's just simple that we need to break into people's, houses, those who have built by the roadside and so on, and then have a segregated road. We need to do it fast, because the situation is becoming chaotic.
But isn't it too late to do that? I mean, looking at the way structures are pretty close to our roads and all of that, if we had to do that, count the cost as well to government in terms of compensating people and all of that. Is it practical? Is it a practical solution?
I think it is practical because the situation will be worse. If you go back to look at what I said on your stations 10 years ago, I said Accra will come to a standstill very, very soon because of traffic. We are getting closer and people will be depressed. Already people are depressed, right? You are leaving Denta, coming to work in Accra, and you are spending 3 hours in traffic. Productivity level will be low. And of course, by 3:30 you'll be agitating for you to leave quickly to the house. You spend another 3-4 hours, you get home, you cannot take supper. You take supper, you go and sleep, and what else? Aluta continua. It's a big issue. So the real thing that needs to be done right now is that let's, stop it there and work towards it. Because if we continue to bring in vehicles, air pollution will continue. People who drive will continue to have that stress level moving so high. You go to the office, you cannot do anything. You are thinking about your son, your daughter that you need to pick from school. And I mean, a lot more will happen. So the productivity levels that we are thinking that it should rise will rather sink in this country.
Well, I'll tell you what, the traffic nowadays is maddening. And sometimes a journey that can take you 10 minutes takes you quadruple that time, 40 minutes, 50 minutes. And some of the traffic, you sit in it and you must just calm yourself down. Because, and that's where I see the depression and other things coming. So, well, we have part of the solution to it. How do we, I think I should say, as a people, get rid of all the traffic? It begins with government in terms of some of the things that can be put in place. But it also behoves you and me. It behoves us to do the right things, and if we can afford it, sometimes, one thing that I find interesting, Cecil, you go to other jurisdictions and you would see, I've been in a country where you see a naval captain, medical doctors and all of that riding the bus. But here, hey, me I be doctor, you want me to go do it. And that is, I think a mindset change would also be I don't know. The generation coming should have a bit of a mindset change, because we are all too. I think it's because it's a status symbol to drive a car.
Yeah,
that's part of it.
It's really true. And then you and I would travel, and then you would buy the most expensive vehicle. Look, they haven't even seen you, because nobody will look at you. But I mean, we have this, prestige that, hey, you need to buy the biggest V8 for people to say that, oh yes, that's Ben driving in the V8, and that is our problem here. The BRT system, if it is working, will take over all this. And then, have you realized that on the motorway, I think I'm asking you to go and take footages. Those living around Ajay Kojo, or what do we call it, right? They are driving on the left side of the motorway in the evenings, going home, because they cannot cross through Chioma. This is to do with the vehicle population, which is on the increase. I'll say about 5 to 8% increase. Still, we have the same old roads that we are using. We do not have a lot of access roads. I'll give the government a plus, they are tiring roads and so on, but we need access roads. We need less vehicles, more buses to use segregated road, and that will be the solution. You and I will patronize that BRT system. But for now, the BRT is just like a common trotro. They are still in traffic, wasting a lot of fuel, wasting a lot of time, and it is a complete failure.
It is a complete failure. One last thing that I would say, of course, if these systems were working, sometimes you wouldn't be tempted to use your car, because driving itself is tiring. So if you can sit in a vehicle, be conveyed from point A to point B at the right time, who wouldn't want that? From time to time, we would do that and save ourselves money and all the depression. Well, this is where we wrap today's Drive Safe segment. We've been talking about the traffic situation, the causes, and how we can emerge from them. I'm sure you've learned a thing or two. But right before we go, here is the answer to today's quiz question. So you think you know. Did you get the answer correct? And that is the answer, in case you didn't know. My name. Well, from Driving Safe, we talk about crude oil exploration in Ghana and how far we have come. It's all a talk about the PIAC semi-annual report. And the latest findings in that semi-annual report shows that irregularities are extant in the oil and gas sector. Following the acquisition of 7% interest in the Jubilee and 10 fields by the GNPC in 2021, which was later ceded to its subsidiary, that is JOL, or the JOHL, it made its first lifting of 944,164 barrels on the Jubilee field in H1 2022, amounting to over 100 million American dollars. This amount was not paid into the Petroleum Holding Fund. Contrary to Section 6E of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, that is the PRMA 2011 Act 815. Capital gains tax was not assessed and collected by the Ghana Revenue Authority in the sale of the 7% interest by Anadako in the Jubilee and 10 fields in 2021. Today we probe this matter with Nasir Alpha Mohammed. He is a vice chairperson of the Public Interest and Accountability Committee and also representative of the Ghana Bar Association on that committee. Nasir, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, and good morning to our viewers and listeners out there.
It's a pleasure having you. I just want us to start the conversation from the standpoint of this semi-annual report. Give us details of how often this happens and why even we have to do this.
I just want to be clear in my mind how often
so the semi-annual
report.
How often we have this report and why do we even go to it on the back of our petroleum revenue? I just want you to expand on that for ordinary people.
That's fine. Under the law, which is the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, we are required under Section 56 to report to the elected representatives of the people of Ghana, to His Excellency the President of Ghana, and generally to the people of Ghana. And we are required to produce 2 statutory reports in a year. The first is the semi-annual report, which is supposed to be published by the 15th of September each year. And then the annual report, which is supposed to be published around March the following year. following that particular year you are assessing. And so since 2011, when the Public Interest and Accountability Committee was established, we have been producing these statutory reports. So far, we have produced 22 statutory reports. This current one is the 11th semi-annual report, and the 22nd in total of all our statutory reports that we have made. And so, yes, this is how often we do our reports, semi-annual and annually. And we have published as many as 22 statutory reports so far.
We have that Joel situation that I was just talking about, the 7% that stands out. But before we get into that specific matter, we're talking oil production, gas production, we're talking sources of petroleum revenue, we're talking about APFA utilization and all of that. Give us a bit of a breakdown of what exactly this latest report evinces on the back of some of these topical matters. In recent times, we've heard, not just in recent times, the APFA and how it's been utilized and how sometimes it breaches the law and all of that. What, in a summary way, can you tell us about these in the latest report? You can take them apart one by one.
Well, generally, oil revenues are supposed to be disbursed in accordance with rules and regulations stipulated in the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. Now, it is not all oil revenue that goes into the annual budget funding amount. We have other funds as well. So petroleum revenue coming from all the revenue streams goes into the Petroleum Holding Fund for starters. And then...
That is the PHF.
That is the PHF. Now we calculate about 51% of the carried and participating interest, which is only one of the revenue streams that comes in, and then we give it to GNPC for its expenditure and all that. Then the remaining will then be disbursed, according to the Act, to the Ghana Petroleum Funds, which includes the Ghana Stabilization Fund and then the Ghana Heritage Fund. We disburse to the Ghana Heritage Fund for purposes of intergenerational equity, so that Ghanaians, children who are yet unborn, will be able to also benefit from the oil and gas resources, given that oil is an exhaustible natural resource. And
it's finite.
It's finite. It is not for only the living generation. It is also for the future generations. And so we leave a bit of that for them. Then to the Stabilization Fund, to cushion our budgeting in times of unanticipated fiscal imbalances. We have something for Stabilization Fund. But then we have an amount that goes into the annual budget funding amount. This is the dedicated amount that is supposed to help government to fund its developmental projects and all of that. So we have these various ways of disbursing the funds in the annual budget funding amount. Now, when it comes to the annual budget funding amount itself, it's supposed to be spent in a way that is also itemized in the Act. Out of 12 priority areas, the law stipulates that the Minister for Finance, in the absence of a long-term national development plan, should choose up to 4 priority areas of that 12 priority areas and spend the money on them. Now, in the past, succeeding governments have chosen different priority areas. Some have repeated some of those priority areas and all that. Currently, between 2020 and this 2022, we are doing these 4 priority areas: agriculture, rail, and other critical infrastructure development, which is the second. We have physical infrastructure and service delivery in education and health, which is the third, and we have industrialization. So these are the 4 priority areas that the government...
What's the 4th one again?
The 4th is industrialization.
Right.
So currently, these are the 4 priority areas we are doing. And these are the areas into which the government, disburses annual budget funding amount into.
We'll get into the question of whether all these disbursements are actually made, but I just want us to take a quick look at the data as we have it, looking at our crude oil production between 2010 and now, 2022. And it creates an interesting picture if we can have those visuals. That is page 17 of the executive summary, if you want to call it that. And in 2011, now this started 2010.
Yeah.
So 2011, we produced some 10,669,462 barrels. I'll not be mentioning the other, I'll just peg it at the highest.
Yeah.
So, and you see, it's been incremental ever since. In 2012, over 11 million. In 2013, over 18 million. Again, in 2014, over 18 million. In 2015, 19 million plus. 2016, there was a sharp fall of about 8 million barrels to 11,440,000. But from there, it took off again. 2017, and this, of course, was the time of the ruling administration. So that became 24 million plus. In 2018, 28 million plus. In 2019, 34 million plus. This is, when you look at the 34 million we produced in 2019 and 2020, that is over 34 million. That is over what? 3 times what we actually produced at the start in 2011. It's almost 3 times as well of what we produced in 2012. So it just tells you about how much incrementally we were producing. In 2021, there was a little dip of about what, some 7 million barrels. It fell to 27. And in 2022, we know with everything happening globally, it fell to over 25 million. Just 200,000 barrels away from 26 million. But still, it means we're in a good state. What does all of this mean in terms of reflecting in our state's kitty, in the different sectors that it should reflect?
I think it is important for us to situate this conversation well. So when you look at 2011, for example, and here we are only dealing with half years that we are comparing, comparative analysis for half year. So you realize that we started getting our petroleum revenue in 2011. So as we get petroleum revenue in 2011, that was the time we also started production. Production started in December 2010.
Exactly.
And so we didn't really produce that much.
No, we didn't.
And so we couldn't possibly have gained much from oil.
So, of course, the recording year starts from 2011.
Yes, and besides, we had only the Jubilee Field. So from 2011, 2012, 2013, and some part of 2014, it was just the Jubilee Field that we had.
Yeah.
So even though there was incremental, production,
more fuels came on board.
Yes, more fuels came on board from 2014 onwards. So when the 10 came on board, and then 2016, 2017, when the SGN came on board. So definitely, that was how the incremental volumes that occur, because we now have more fields. So cumulatively, we're producing more. But you realize that in 2016, there was a little drop, and that is explained by operational losses resulting from the turret bearing remediation of the FPSO, and other associated operational losses. But then we took, production started rising again in 2017, 2018, thereabout, because we did not have some of these operational losses again. And we did well until 2021. So starting from 2020 and down to 2021, you would realize because of COVID-19 and also because of the recent Ukraine and Russian war, we did not have a lot of investments going into the oil and gas industry as such. And so we had a dip again around that time. So, yeah.
Tell me, the 3 fields we've been operating, SGN, 10, Jubilee, how productive have they been? People have spoken about their levels of productivity, what we're getting from them in terms of real value, and of course, what is leaving our shores on the back of this exploration. Have we met the standards in terms of what we should be getting as a people from these 3 oil fields?
In terms of revenues?
In terms of revenue.
Well, in terms of revenue, if we're talking about revenue, we have to take it from the point of view of the contracts we negotiated with them, right?
And the royalties
you get
we expected.
We negotiated for,
right.
The royalties. So you realize that in all instances, all the fields that we are currently getting production from now, these were fields, the petroleum agreements of which were negotiated earlier in time at a time when the petroleum basins of Ghana were relatively risky. And so we needed investment from the international investment, from the international investors to come into Ghana to be able to invest in the oil and gas industry. And if we know, the oil and gas industry is capital intensive in nature. And so when they come, they tend to negotiate for opportunities like tax concessions and all of that to make up for the investment losses they may have in case they hit dry oils. And so in the early stages, we actually gave a lot of fiscal concessions to these oil companies. And the petroleum agreements are always long-term in nature, 25 years, 30 years, and all of that. And so once they get this, in addition to the stabilization clause that they negotiate for, and in those days it was freezing stabilization clauses, and even though some of them were blended with economic equilibrium clauses, the freezing stabilization clauses almost always is what the international oil companies would hold on to. And so even though you may have changed your laws in the future to ensure that Ghana gets more revenues, the international oil companies would not agree to that, because they will tell you that it will make the economic bargain they negotiated with you be imbalanced. And to that extent, they won't go for that. So yes, for me, it's a function of our negotiation from the very beginning. That is why we are not getting much at the moment.
I know what goes into contracts and how you can't just, pick and choose or tweak such international contracts, especially when they're dealing with MNCs, multinational corporations, but especially when it's not inuring to the benefit of the people. And it's been said time and again, even by the likes of Dr. Steve Mantea, who has been where you are, among others, that we're only getting a pittance for, these raw materials, these natural boons that we have. And like you mentioned, they are not finite. Why are we still sticking to the 7% and the 10% and all of that?
Yeah, so for me, I agree with all of those persons who argue that way, including my very respected Dr. Mantea, that we are receiving a pittance. But I was only giving a background as to why we are receiving a pittance at the moment. Because all the petroleum agreements that we are currently benefiting from in terms of the fields, these are agreements that were negotiated earlier in time. And we did not make room for proper renegotiation when in the future we realize that we are not getting much. So we have put a stabilization clause there, a freezing stabilization clause, which entitles the Jubilee partners, the 10 partners, the SGN partners, to insist on the economic bargain they had with us from the very beginning and not to depart from that economic bargain. And so technically, it is difficult for us to be able to get more than we are currently getting, except that from 2013, 2014 going, from 2015 onwards, we have started seeing some changes where Ghana no longer puts just freezing stabilization clauses, but only insists on economic equilibrium clauses. And these economic equilibrium clauses gives us an opportunity to call for renegotiation of the petroleum contracts when we realize that the bargain is not in favor of Ghana. And that is a good thing that we have started doing. Right? But I just want to emphasize that, yes, we could have negotiated for better, even in those days when we didn't, when our petroleum basins were still risky. We could have negotiated for better because comparatively, other jurisdictions, people are able to do so. Yeah.
Is that to say you will advocate for better?
Of course, we are advocating
given the opportunity.
Yeah, we are advocating for better, and I'm just suggesting that as it stands now, we are beginning to negotiate somehow for better. At least we no longer subscribe to the freezing stabilization clauses. We now subscribe to economic equilibrium clauses, which gives Ghana
What's the difference?
The difference, as I indicated, is that for the freezing stabilization clauses, Ghana is, excluding the government itself and all the agencies of government from applying new laws to these Jubilee partners, 10 partners, SGN partners, that will change the economic bargain they had with us from the very beginning when they negotiated with us. That is a freezing stabilization clause. Now, an economic equilibrium clause would have given us the opportunity to call for renegotiation, where we realize that they are, for example, getting windfall.
Exactly.
And when we are not benefiting much, we can call them to the table and say, now, you are getting more than we originally
far in excess of what was planned.
And therefore, let us renegotiate in such a way that we can have the equities balanced. But let Ghana also earn something. So for me, I think that is one of the root causes why we don't really get much. But beyond that one, there are still other issues. Now, we give them an opportunity to recover their costs. And so they use that opportunity to bring in all sort of costs involved and all of that, when some of those costs are actually not those that go to the root where they could recover. So that brings the issue of cost monitoring. To what extent are our authorities doing the cost monitoring properly, so-called? What costs are they entitled to recover, and what are they not entitled to recover? If we're doing our cost monitoring very well, some industry analysts have argued that we could have saved some revenues from that angle if we were monitoring the cost.
So clearly we're not doing it well enough.
Of course, that is what it means. I mean, if you look at the research data that is available, PIAC commissioned an assessment of our petroleum revenue management for 10 years from 2011 to 2020, and this is one of the findings that came up.
So it also means that when you look at what we've accrued so far, that is 2011 to 2022, the 8.09 billion, it means that, and of course, in this year, 2022 alone, in terms of royalties, we've got something around 731 plus million, almost 732 million American dollars. It means that we could have got maybe far in excess of this in terms of real value from the exploration of our oil.
Of course, if we negotiated very well, yes. If we negotiated very well. That's true.
When I look at part of the report, it talks about the GHF and the GSF with about 849.91 million for that's American dollars for the GHF, and 373 plus million for the GSF, being balances of the Ghana Petroleum funds as at the end of H1 2022. What does all of this mean?
Well, as I indicated to you, ideally we are supposed to be leaving some portion of our oil revenue for generations yet unborn, and that is for intergenerational equity purposes, and that's the Ghana Heritage Fund. It is that amount that is in excess of 800 million Ghana cedis, because since 2011 we've not been touching that amount at all, even though some have argued that in all our economic problems, why keep this quantum of money and then be having problems? But we have advocated strongly, I mean, PIAC and other civil society organizations, that this is not money we have to touch at all, because that money constitutes only about 9% of our total oil revenues. So the 91% of our total oil revenues, are actually pumped into our economy, including the 51% of carried and participating interest that we give to GNPC, including the annual budget funding amount that we give to government for purposes of the budget, and then the Ghana Stabilization Fund, which, as I said, is there to help government cushion its budgetary requirements in times of unanticipated fiscal imbalances. So it tells you that apart from this Ghana Heritage Fund, which is just a mere 9% of the total oil revenues that we are keeping for our generations yet unborn, 91% of that is being invested in our economy. And so if over 91% of oil revenue is being invested in our economy, and we are still not happy, what can the 9%, that small 9%, do for us if we were to bring it on board? So for us, we think that to the extent that, as I indicated, this is an exhaustible natural resource, and the fact that natural resources worldwide, that is the principle, are not only for the living, but also for generations yet unborn. It is important for us to leave something behind for them to be able to take.
And it's stark when you paint that picture of what we're investing even in our economy and how little, it's like a drop in a bucket, just a trickle. And we still want to pump in more. When, forgetting about those that are yet unborn. And like we keep mentioning, our gold, our oil, all of these are very finite resources. If we don't leave something for them, Only God knows what they would have to come
in
and
fact, even why even focus on oil revenues alone? Because oil revenue on the average constitutes only about 7%.
Fraction.
Right? Only about 7% of the total government revenues for each year. So if you take it from 2011 up till now and you do the mathematics, there are times we have only 3% of total oil revenue. Right. There are times we have 4%, 6%, 12%. But when you do the average, it comes to around 7%. So that tells you that on the average, we are doing only about 7% of oil revenue, or sorry, 7% of total government revenue coming from, oil. So why even the focus on oil revenue alone when it comes to resources we need to ensure that our developmental agenda is prosecuted?
All right. Let's get into that bit about, maybe I'll skip the distribution of the AFA. I want us to talk about the petroleum production and sales. And with a focus, I just want, maybe if we could put page 17 on. I just want people to realize or pay attention to what, like Nasir mentioned, we should be focusing on, at least what we've committed to focus on. Agriculture, road, rail, and other critical infrastructure development, that's on page 17. Physical infrastructure and service delivery in education and health. And finally, industrialization. When we look at these core areas, are we getting things right? But let's bring in the petroleum production and sales. I want us to hammer on that before we wrap the conversation. So per what you've garnered from your research, following the acquisition of 7% interest in the Jubilee and 10 fields by the GNPC, we know that JOL took over, made its first lifting of over 944,000 barrels on the Jubilee field in H1 2022, amounting to over $100 million. This amount was not paid into the Petroleum Holding Fund. What happened?
Well, our duty, our mandate as a public oversight body is to ensure that every dollar of oil revenues actually goes into the Petroleum Holding Fund. That is the mandate of PIAC. So for us, when we are doing our analysis, we take into consideration our ultimate responsibility to the people of this country, which is to ensure that every petrodollar goes into the Petroleum Holding Fund. Now, GNPC is the commercial representative of Ghana when it comes to our upstream petroleum exploration, development, and production. Now, JOHL is 100% subsidiary of GNPC. And how did JOHL even come into the picture when, in fact, it is GNPC that is supposed to be our commercial representative? Now, Anadago was, a partner on the Jubilee and 10 fields. And Anadago wanted to exit the Republic of Ghana.
Of course, there must be a plan.
Sell its equity interests to those who are interested in it. As a nation, we declared our interest for 7% joint, to jointly acquire from the Jubilee and 10 fields, right? Now, one would have expected GNPC itself to have taken on that 7% that we wanted to buy.
Why do you think they didn't? Just a quick aside.
Well, GNPC has, they have established GNPC Explorer, which is like a commercial entity they have established to help them explore for oil. And they have been doing that. So some of the blocks, we actually have Explorer as being a partner in some of the blocks. So the expectation was that if GNPC itself will not take on those 7 interests, at least its 100% subsidiary, which is GNPC Explorer, could have taken up that 7%, right? But GNPC claims that this is a purely commercial transaction that we do not need to drag the Ghana as a sovereign state bit into, because Anadago itself, objected to that kind of arrangement and wanted it to be a purely commercial transaction.
On hindsight, was that a very good decision?
For us, it is not a very good decision. And even if it was, we are so much interested as a public oversight body on what the revenues that accrue from that transaction, would be treated. How are we going to be treating that kind of revenue? The Petroleum Revenue Management Act, if you look at sections 3, section 6E, and Section 7. Cumulatively, when you do a combined reading of these sections, you will come to the conclusion that the Act requires that wherever Ghana participates upstream for petroleum production, for petroleum production, properly so-called, then whether directly or indirectly, it doesn't matter whether Ghana's participation is directly or indirectly. And as I told you, GNPC is the commercial representative of Ghana. So if JOHL is a subsidiary, 100% subsidiary of GNPC, it should mean that JOHL, whatever interest it is holding there, it is holding it in trust for Ghana, right? So, so our argument is that whichever way you look at it, whether JOHL is seen to be a direct participation or indirect participation of GNPC, whatever comes out of a lifting done by JOHL, should the returns that we get from any lifting by JOHL should first be deposited in the Petroleum Holding Fund, and then subsequent disbursements can be made.
Quick questions. So, following the paper trail, you've spoken about how this contravenes Section 6E of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, that is the PRMA. And here it is clear that capital gains tax was not assessed and collected by the Ghana Revenue Authority. And that's interesting because the 7% interest was to come from Anadako in the Jubilee and 10 fields in 2021. It wasn't assessed by the GRA. And of course, we can take out the GNPC at this point. But where did this end up then? Shoring up our economy? I mean, how do we account for this?
Yeah, because at the moment, the transaction is complete, right? GNPC, through its subsidiary JOHL, is in business. So that is why PIAC actually raised this matter. First of all, it comes from the root cause. Because GNPC is proceeding under the misapprehension that...
Under the misapprehension?
Yes.
Or misunderstanding?
Misunderstanding, let me put it that way. That transaction, JOHL transaction, is purely commercial, and that the proceeds of liftings from that transaction does not constitute petroleum revenue, and therefore could not be deposited in the Petroleum Holding Fund. Now, we hold a contrary opinion, and we say that whichever way you look at it, whether commercial transaction or non-commercial transaction or whatever, the law requires that where the Republic of Ghana participates directly or indirectly in a petroleum activity upstream and revenue is accrued out of that, that revenue ought to be deposited in the Petroleum Holding Fund for subsequent disbursement. Now, our reading is that JOHL, it's not just a company standing in the abstract. JOHL is a 100% subsidiary of GNPC, which is supposed to be the commercial representative of the people of this country when it comes to upstream petroleum activities. So for us, it is either direct or indirect. For some of us, we even think this is a direct participation. But even if you think that it is an indirect participation, the law still says that deposit the returns on that lifting into the Petroleum Holding Fund for subsequent disbursement. In any case, the acquisition of the 7% was done with monies advanced by the Ministry for Finance, right? Even though GNPC is repaying that particular loan, what we advocate is that if the returns on the JOHL transaction had been deposited in the PHL, now we could calculate the 51% of the capital, the carried and participating interest that GNPC, that is due GNPC to them, and then all the other funds can have their due. So Ghana Stabilization Fund would have had its due from that amount. The Ghana Heritage Fund would have had its due from that amount. And in that respect, the annual budget funding amount would have had its due from that amount. And so by not depositing it there, you have actually prevented, or you have actually starved these other funds from legitimate revenues that should have gone.
Of getting their due, the cut of the cake.
Of course.
Which per the law, they should be getting.
Yes.
And when you turn to page 25, for example, management and performance of the Ghana Petroleum funds, it is made clear here, the retention of the current cap of 100 million on the GSF for the year 2022 is not in accordance with the formula stipulated in LI 2381. A proper application of the formula would have returned a figure of, guess what, a whopping 460,633,074 dollars.
Yes. So you see, here, the law permits the Minister for Finance to be able to cap the Stabilization Fund and then cream off the excess revenue to help in our budgeting purposes. I mean, if the Minister thinks that we really need, that. But in order not to give the Minister an unregulated restriction, the LI, which is the legislative...
So that it's not just a carte blanche, do whatever you like.
Exactly. So the legislative instrument gave a formula how the minister should be able to do that. And it says that the cap should not be less than the average of the annual budget funding amount for 3 years. The year immediately preceding the current year, and then the year immediately after the current year, as you may have projected.
So before, in, and after.
Exactly. So at PIAC, when we did the calculations of these, when we applied the formula properly so-called, it returned an amount in excess of 400 million United States dollars. Meanwhile, the cap had been retained at 100 million United States dollars by the minister for 2022. And that also happened
in 2021. That's a differential of over 300 million.
Of course. And so we have a concern. We raised the same matter in 2020, in our 2021 annual report, because the same thing happened. And we raised it in our 2021 annual report. It is continuing in 2022. And we think that we have to raise it again in the semi-annual report. And if it continues, we may have to raise it at the end.
So it clearly means that there is a lack of compliance from the finance ministry.
Of course. That is, I mean, from our angle, that is what it is, unless they can give us a better explanation why the formula was not applied.
Just talking of the formula, we have just about a minute to wrap the conversation. I want you to do this for us. So when we go to page 27, there's more interesting conversation when it comes to the APFA and its utilization. So there was unutilized APFA of over 201 million Ghana cedis as at the end of 2021, representing 9.80% of 2021 utilization. This figure was not brought forward in H1 2022, according to the Ministry of Finance. Details of this amount will be forwarded to PIAC before the annual report. Then, no transfer of APFA was made into the District Assembly's Common Fund during H1 2022, though an amount of 157.77 million was budgeted for in 2022. My question then, how do we remedy this? How do we stem the tide of this? If the Finance Ministry is simply not willing to act, what do we do?
I don't want to just say they are not willing to act.
But is it not clear, the trajectory over time? It's been brought up. I mean, it doesn't take you coming into the studio. We've had conversations in the past on this self-same matters. Nothing is happening.
Yeah, I understand. But I say so because of where I sit, with privileged information and all of that. That's why I say, I just don't want to say they don't want to do it. All I can say is that the powers that be or the law should be made to work by whoever is supposed to enforce it. But because they have also explained that they have some challenges.
Right.
But we at PIAC would say that despite your challenges, you have failed to do what you are supposed to do.
Right.
However, it is not in the, it is not for PIAC to determine exactly what should happen to them. That's what I mean, because we don't have the enforcement.
I get
we don't have the enforcement power and all of that. Otherwise, they have failed to do what is supposed to be done. Now, in the area of the DACF, disbursement to the DACF, they have budgeted for it, all right. The explanation is that always, disbursement is always 1 quarter in arrears. And that has been the general principle that they've been using all over when they are doing disbursement, whether DACF or other disbursements and all of that. So we have argued that, I mean, even if...
We have less than 30 seconds.
Yes, even if the disbursements made to the DSCF or the disbursement you didn't make to the DSCF, even if you had made just 1 quarter, first quarter disbursement had been made, then we will buy into this explanation that it is always 1 quarter in arrears. But that's not the case. We have 2 quarters in arrears already for 2022, first and second quarter. And so we disagree with them on that.
Well, we can only wish you the very best and keep bringing up these matters, and we in the media will definitely take them up. So we can expect one more report
yes,
this year,
by
right?
March next year.
By March.
Yeah, but that will be the 2022 annual full year report.
Full year report. Thank you so much, Nasir, for joining the conversation. Nasir Alpha Mohammed is Vice Chairperson of the PIAC. He also is the representative of the Ghana Bar Association on that committee, holding leadership accountable in all spheres of our economic life. Well, this has been the conversation we've had. Up next, many more conversations we're going to be delving into. There's NSMQ, and there is that discussion as well on defense. We'll also talk about cooking the right way. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello, good morning to you. It's been a while. I'm back. Thank you, Maps, for holding it down here with Benjamin. And thank you also for staying on the AM show. I'm Bernice Abubedu Lansa. It's now time to talk about the Ghana Teacher Prize. And I've got with me the winner and the first runner-up for the 2022 edition. Stella Jima Labi is a literature teacher at the Adenta Community Junior High School, and she emerged the overall best national teacher for 2022. And the good thing is she's also a facilitator on Joy Learning, and she's just seated on my immediate left. And she's got her beautiful sash on, which says Ghana's most outstanding teacher. And Fati is also here. Fati Isifu is an English teacher at the Bupe Girls Model School in the central Gonja municipality of the Savannah region. She was first runner-up. Thank you, ladies, for joining me this morning. And I'm excited that, so literature and English
English
is the same thing.
It's the same.
So the winner in the first one, I mean, I'm just wondering, I know we teach a lot of subjects in high school, but it appears that the English teachers are doing something dynamic. Tell us what you've been doing with your students at Adenta, for which reason you won this prize.
Okay, so I've been doing quite a number of things. Good morning to your audience and good morning to everybody. I've been doing quite a number of things. In the classroom, some of the basic innovations that I've been able to put together is the fact that I make the children write their own stories. So based on what you've read, now let's practicalize it. So beyond rhetorics, beyond what I've seen and I'm reading, what can I also put out there? So I made them write their own stories. Now, together with the learners, we are able to come up with teaching aids. And so it's not a one-way affair where the teacher always comes up with, let's do this and that's all. What are some of the things that we can do so that when I teach the lesson, it becomes more interactive, more understanding? So I come up with a lot of different teaching materials together with the learners. I also teach them extra.
Okay.
So when school closes at 2:30, while everybody is in a hurry to go home, I have chosen to stay in school and teach those who have challenges.
Wow.
For free.
Wow, that's nice. That's laudable.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is not, I'm not patronizing you or anything, but this is really encouraging. And we find that a lot. A lot of passionate teachers in Ghana are getting innovative by the day. Of course, we know what the challenges are. We can't pretend. Lack of infrastructure, lack of logistics, textbooks. I mean, that's a big issue. So if you have a teacher sacrificing her time, saying, I'm going to teach students for free, that is laudable. Let me come to you, Fati. You are in Bupe. Oh, that's quite a journey from here, isn't it? How many hours?
It's about 12 hours.
Whoa, and you do that in one day?
Yeah,
or
in
you
one
take
day.
a break and rest?
No.
Oh, wow.
I usually pick that STC or VIP in one day, and I'm here.
Tell us what you've been doing at Bupe SHS.
Okay, so at Bupe Girls Model School, it's also a junior high school. We do a lot. We have what we call a child parliament. When I went there, I realized the children were not bold enough. They were not outspoken. And also they had challenges with the spoken language. That's the English language. So I instituted what we call the child parliament, which is mostly found in the South over here, where they come up with their own topics. And then I group them into two, the minority and then the majority. So they go and write their own points on the causes, effect, and the solutions of the topic that they have chosen or they have selected. Then we have rehearsals. We meet once every 2 weeks. And then each panel, they bring their own issues on board. And then after that, we just disperse. Then at the end of the term, we come together. We invite some people from the town and other schools. And then we enact exactly what we have been rehearsing to the whole community. And it has really helped over the years to help them to be bold, to speak up as women over there. It has really helped a lot. Aside from that, we also have what we call reading clinic. I also realized that most of them were having challenges with reading. So I instituted an early morning reading clinic for them. So every day I have a 1 hour reading between the hours of 6 a.m. and then 7 a.m. before assembly and then normal usual distant classes start. So these are some of the things I've been doing there over the years, and it is really paying off for the learners over there.
Let me just say, so you're seeing photos of the reading clinic for the students at the Bupe Girls Model School.
Yes.
And
what is the child parliament? Yes, that we had last year. This is just last year.
Okay.
That we enacted it for the community. And over there, it's poetry recital class. Okay. Usually they write their own poems.
Okay.
And then we group them and we have competitions in the classroom.
And I saw something.
Then this is a peer teaching class. Usually some of our grammar lessons, that's what we do. I give the topic to them, they go and research on it, and then they come and teach in the class. And after that, I also add a little that I have. So these are some of the pictures that you see on the screen.
And you teach at public institutions, right? These
yes,
are all
please.
Public
Yeah, it's a government. Yes, it's a government school. Yes, please.
Great work you're doing over there. We'll get into the challenges shortly, but I just want to say that one thing I realized when you mentioned that when you met the girls, they were quite timid, and you wanted them to be outspoken and speak proper language. Reminds me of my high school English teachers. And let me just say that English was my favorite subject in high school. Good. And even though I did visual arts, yes, I did visual arts, my school offered me the opportunity to do an elective in literature and English. And Miss Babel, too, was my teacher. Very wonderful woman. And my English teacher was Mrs. Obing. That woman would insist that you say go and not go.
Go. That's true.
So, I mean, I'm just excited that you are teaching the girls to speak properly. Yeah. I know there's a whole debate about not wanting to sound foreign, but I tell people that if somebody said bra instead of bra, as an Akan speaker, you will tell the person it's bra. Because enunciation is important. Yeah. So, exactly. I mean, if you want to speak English, it's always good if you can speak it as close as you can to the native speakers. But I mean, that's just by the way. I was just throwing in that bit on enunciation and getting the girls to speak clearly. Good. So, you tell me, we are not ignorant of the challenges teachers face. There have been several calls by unions, which I believe you're members of, right? Okay. For certain logistics, certain materials to be provided to make it better. You're doing great.
Thank you.
Two of you are doing great from the stories that we've heard. But let me start with you, Stella. What difference would it make for you if you had some of these basic things that you were requested?
Okay. So one of the things that we are taught as teachers is the ability to be innovative. And so for me, I believe that with or without the teaching materials, as a teacher, you have to be innovative enough to put some things together. Because we are always waiting for the things to come. But as you wait for the things to come, what do you do in the waiting period? Okay. One of the major challenges that we have is with infrastructure. Talk of desk. The desks are not enough. So you can enter a class and you are seeing 3 students sitting on a desk. For that, what can you do about it? Unless you decide to provide furniture for them. But while there are no furniture, what do? It also comes in. So there is furniture challenge, textbooks are not there. But in the absence of the textbooks, as a teacher, for me, if we are going to have a review of a comprehension text, and there are no textbooks, and this is what I want to do, I run photocopies. Not that I've got a lot of money, but I believe that as you do that, the interesting part is that as you've used that in this time, you can use it again and again and again in another class. And so I've been photocopying. If I want to treat a text and it's not there, I photocopy the text and then I give it to the learners to read. We answer. When we finish, I take back my papers. And so in the absence of textbooks, there are other strategies that can be adopted. For comprehension, you can't write on the board. It's not logical.
That's too much.
That's too much. And so I get the text printed for them. So infrastructure, textbooks, innovating of teaching learning materials and other things. So some of the other materials are also not there in most schools, and in my school. But all I keep saying is, if they are not there, I chose to provide to make my learners better.
Right. Mati, what about you? What's your story like?
Okay, it's similar, quite similar to what she said, because I remember when I was once posted to New Ningo DA Basic School, for instance, there were no textbooks. Yeah. So initially, I had to go around school by school to at least get a single textbook per school. So I went to about 5 or 7 schools, and then some of them gave me 2, some gave me 3. So those were the books that I was using. And because they were not enough, I was doing photocopies. And that pushed me into writing short stories. Okay. So that's the creativity or the innovative, this thing that she's talking about. So I had to now come up with my own short stories for us to use as comprehension. Okay. But when I moved over to Bupe, they had Cockerel books. The government supplied them. Yeah, these are some of my storybooks that I wrote for my
I love
children.
the illustration. Yes,
by Vessel Publishers in Ashama. So what happened was that when I moved to Bupe, fortunately the government supplied them with Cockerel books. Okay. So those are the ones that we currently use for our comprehension. And aside from that, I believe that if we have these materials, it will go a long way to help us, because there are some lessons that I use projectors to do, and because we don't have them currently in my school, the parents have even agreed to purchase one for the school, so they are contributing for it so that we can purchase it. Basically because I'm with an association, International English Language Association, and I'm the current president of the affiliate in Ghana here. And we do what we call student exchange, whereby we have international communities. As the last one we did was with Mauritius. So what we do is that we have our students in Ghana, and then students in Mauritius, we give them a topic, and then we come together on Zoom, and we discuss, the learners will discuss these topics among themselves. What happens is that it helps them to collaborate and then have friends online. Yeah, they become global citizens. Yes, this is one of them that we had, yes, with the international students in other countries. Okay.
And the power of technology as well.
Yes. So if we have a projector in my school, because this one, most often I have to take them to the community ICT center, and I have to pay. I pay for the use of the facility and data.
Your
and
personal cash?
Yes, my personal cash. Whenever I take my children there, I have to pay for it. The last time I paid, I think about 80 cedis or so.
You must be really passionate to be a teacher in Ghana. Let me just ask, have you always wanted, did you want to be a teacher when you were growing up?
I did.
You did?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Of course.
You're being honest?
So I'm a teacher by choice.
Okay.
Now, if you go to Facebook, I have a post that something I've been writing, Tales of the 1988 Teacher. When I was a little girl, my father was a teacher. In fact, he retired a teacher. And I used to admire his passion for the job. He would wake up so early, go to work, and people were always complaining about teaching, the salary was not enough. But never did I see Daddy sad. Never did I see him complain. He thought throughout. He didn't do any other job. And he retired a teacher, and he was able to put up his homes. And so I said, okay, if Daddy finds himself here and he's happy, I would also want to. Then there was another instance where I saw young people. So these young people, I used to sell with my mother at Achimota for a period. And after selling, I'll go to school, but I see they didn't go. They'll just be around the area. So I said, okay, what can I directly do to get these young ones in school? And the best possible option is to become a teacher, to inspire them greatly. And so Daddy was one. My desire to see young people in school was two. And then my literature and English teacher, Awodede, they inspired me along the way to pursue the agenda. So in secondary school, when everybody was thinking about what they would be when they grow up, I would say I want to be a teacher.
How did your friends react?
They always like, oh, but you speak so well. You can, in fact, so I said, okay, I'm going to be a teacher. Then I'll be, exactly. Then I'll be a lawyer.
Okay.
So I have.
Well, they're all expressive professions.
Exactly.
So it makes sense.
So I said I was going to be all that. And then I realized that my first love kept calling. Because in the absence of my literature and English teacher, I'll go and teach literature. Okay. Yes, I started teaching literature in secondary school.
Wow. Then you started early.
Yes, I fell in love. I fell in love with the subject, and all I wanted to do was to teach. And so when I completed SS, and then I bought the forms. I bought 2 forms. I bought University of Ghana, and then my father said, Art Training College. And then I added, okay, Daddy says so. Now, I knew I wanted to teach, but I didn't know the level I wanted to teach. And so when the admissions came, so here we are debunking that session that only those who don't pass go to training colleges. Okay. It's a lie. So, yeah, so I gained admission to go to Legon and then the training college. And Daddy said, okay, at the time, you know, the grown-ups, they'll say, okay, you go there. And because when you finish, there is job readily available for you, even though that's what you want to do. Because the university you finish and you have to log on Ligi before they place you. And so I agreed.
So you went to the teacher training college,
exactly,
even though you had admission to the University of Ghana. Okay.
And my father, the admission letter, he said on the day of the awards, he said,
oh, your dad is alive. He must be very proud.
Of course, Mr. President Fulavi.
He was there live.
Yeah, my superhero. He was there. He was there. He said when I told him I had been shortlisted, he picked the admission letter. He's still keeping it in his wardrobe.
How long ago? Wait. Take it slowly. Allow us to digest what you're giving us.
Yes.
So how long ago was this?
That was 2007.
When you had the admission.
Yes.
Your dad has been keeping the letter.
Exactly.
Till date.
Till date.
So tell us what he did with it.
So he said he picked it, looked at it, and smiled. Because at the end of the day, I got a chance to go back to Legon as I wanted to.
Okay.
To pursue a master's in the teaching of English.
Okay, so you're a master's holder.
An MPhil holder.
You needed to add that because you know you understand MPhil is like
because master of arts, but I'm a master of philosophy.
So you're not an MA, you're an
MPhil. No, I'm MPhil.
Okay. Don't worry about that, Fatih, we'll fix it. So here you are, a teacher by choice. I like that. I like the use of that because you know there's the notion that many people enter the teaching profession as a last resort.
Yeah.
We've heard Stella's story. Fatih, what's yours? Are you also a teacher by choice?
Yes, I'm a teacher by choice.
Tell us your story.
Yeah, I went to teacher training college. That's Commander teacher training college, and then I started teaching.
Then, I mean, where did all this passion for teaching come from?
Yeah. Okay, like hers, I also started teaching when I was very young. I was teaching my little siblings in the house and in the community. So that's how my father realized that I was good, I could teach. So when I completed senior high, he says, "Oh, the training college is the best place for you because of what you've been doing around here." So I agreed, and then I went. And I came out, I started teaching, and along the line, I got interested in marketing.
Okay.
So I decided to read marketing at Valley View University.
Okay.
And I finished, and I was doing my national service with Commercial Bank. I did my national service Commercial Bank in Konongo. So they told me they could retain me if I wanted to. I said, no, I want to go back to teaching. So they were very shocked.
The money was good, wasn't it? The prospects were good.
It was good. Because all my colleagues, I think about 3 of them that we finished that particular year, they are all bank managers now.
So you would have been a bank manager by now. But you may have been frustrated.
Yes, I wouldn't have been happy at all. I wouldn't have been happy or satisfied. No, I loved teaching. So that's why I came back. I came back to the classroom. That's 2012. And then I continued my teaching till date. And I love it. I love it because...
Of all the subjects you could have taught, why English?
In fact, I've taught a lot of subjects, from RME to ICT. I've taught mathematics. I've taught science, almost all of them.
Okay. Okay.
But I always love English because I've come to realize that most learners have challenges with the language. And until the learner is able to pick the English language, it basically affects all other subjects, because if he cannot read and write, there is no way the child can calculate mathematics or can do anything related to science.
Yeah.
That is the point. So that's why I love English language. And I see it in my learners where basically almost the school that I've taught in across the nation, the 4 regions that I've worked in, I realize that wherever I'm posted to, the learners that come to junior high 1, out of 40 or out of 50, only about 10 of them can read and write. So all the time, I have to do the same thing, go back to the basics, teach phonics before we can even go into the curriculum.
And the
content
phonics is
itself.
the A, B, K.
Exactly.
Right.
So you come to junior high 1 and then you meet
You're
me
now learning
teaching, yes,
A,
every
B,
morning.
K, in
exactly,
junior high school.
in junior high school. And that's why I love English.
It's no news.
That's why I love English.
Because I see the toddlers saying it all the time, A for apple, and it's surprising that in junior high school somebody is now learning that.
Yes.
Why English for you, Stella?
Okay, so...
Was your dad an English teacher?
No, he was a science teacher.
Okay.
I remember in training college, I wanted to continue with the literature. And we were only 3. Myself, Angie, and then Ijnaba. Now, the literature teacher said she wouldn't teach if we were only 3. So we had to go rally and get people on board. So we were able to win 2 more souls. So Major, we became 5, and then Major decided to teach us. I had so much love for the subject because I feel that you need to know the structure of the language before you can use it. And then, as Fatih said, the English language replicates in all the others, because you need the English in order to express yourself in the RME. You need the English to express yourself in the social studies. You need the English to express yourself in pre-technical skills, in all the other subjects, apart from French and Ghanaian language.
Okay.
So I said, okay, this is what, because I love reading and writing as well. So I chose to do that. I also have some books to my credit.
Okay.
Books that I give out for free.
To help children.
To help them.
Yeah, to understand, okay.
Yes.
So let's just get a bit controversial since we're talking about English.
Controversial.
When you mentioned Ghanaian, Fatih is running away from politics. But when you mentioned Ghanaian language, so there's the assertion that teaching children in their mother tongue is always the best. And people have cited examples of how it's done in other countries where English is taught, though, but it's not the language that is used as the general mood for teaching and learning.
Okay.
There are those who are for and against the motion, let me put it that way.
Okay.
I don't know where you stand in all of this. As English teachers, what would you say? Should we begin to look at teaching children? And what do you think will be the pros and cons if we make such a decision? Let me start with you, Fatih.
Well, for one, it's good, especially at the basic level, that is from KG.
Yeah, up to class 3.
Basic 1, basic 2, it's okay around that time because they are very new to even the environment of teaching and learning. So when you start from their language, their mother tongue, it gives them a little bit comfort. It warms them up into the teaching and the learning environment that they have been brought into. Mm-hmm. So it's good at that level, but from basic 3, basic 4 upwards is very detrimental. It's going to really affect them because at the end of the day, when they get to junior high, that's where the problem comes in. And that's how most of us, for instance, the two of us sitting here, we are telling you that learners come to junior high 1 and then they can't read and they can't write.
How about continuing the mother tongue till
it's going to worsen the case. Not at all.
Is it a thing of you looking at how they will interact with the rest of the world? Or is it a case of they not understanding the subjects properly?
No, it has to do, okay, there are two things. It has to do psychologically, let's go it that way, because the maturation of the brain has a timing, and that particular timing is when they are very young. Okay. And during that time, they pick language very easily. So if you delay and the maturation of the brain ends, and the child is now going to start learning the English language, it becomes very difficult for the child to pick it quickly. That's why as adults, when we were young, we could pick a lot of languages. For instance, I've been in Bupe for, I think, 3 or 4 years now. I'm still finding it difficult picking the Gunja language. I could understand 1 or 2 of them, but it's difficult speaking it. Even in Pram where I live, I've been there for close to 12, 13 years now. I'm still not speaking Didangme, but I can understand it anyway. Yes, so it has to do with the maturation of the brain.
Doesn't this then suggest that you say that at that level, basic 3 moving on to 4, the brains are developing in such a way that it's difficult to pick up language now. So is that not what we're doing to our Ghanaian language then? Because you find then that Ghanaian language is introduced at basic 4. Okay. In the school that I went to, junior high school, from basic to junior high, I think we started Ghanaian language in basic 4 or 5. I can't remember exactly. But
you went to a Bafo school, eh?
But you speak the Ghanaian language at home.
What school did you attend?
Akosombo International.
Exactly.
No, but I mean, so you're saying that the picture is different in other schools where they already know the local language, so it's best to start teaching them English from the scratch.
That's fine. It's a little bit okay. It helps the learner because you are coming from a home where you speak your local language.
Okay.
So when you come and they are blending the local language with the English language, it helps them to.
So I get what you're saying. So the dynamics are different.
Different
in this country. We don't seem to have a general standard.
Yes,
there is in the government schools.
Okay.
In the government schools.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So the usage of the Ghanaian language, a lot of studies have been conducted. And in the studies, Prof. Ejekum, University of Ghana, he taught me second language acquisition. And in there, you realize that, as Fatih said earlier, the child's orientation, interaction in the house, helps with the relation with the other language. And so if the child knows now that, the local language of this, let's say cup, and then the child gets to a level where you're teaching the child how to speak the English or in any other language, any other second language, then you introduce it. The child is able to bring a relation because the sounds in the local language some of them can be found in the English language and in the other language. You take Spanish, for an example, and some of the sounds in Spanish are in the English language. Okay, and so once the child knows the native sounds, the child can relate it to the second language that the learner. I've been cautioned to use learner. That the learner is being introduced to. And so it's the curriculum, our standard in Ghana says that we should use the local language from class 1, as Fatih said, up to 3, the lower class.
Okay.
However, that is not the case in most schools. Now, what
why is it not the case? What's the challenge?
Exactly. So what some researchers are saying is that you go to Gonja, and then you'd have to teach the child the Gonja language as the basic language, the first language. Okay. You go to Central Region, and you are teaching the child the Fanti. You go to the Ewe land, and you are teaching the child Ewe. However, when they all come together, there seems to be a little disorientation. Okay. And so people are propagating that if we are learning a Ghanaian language,
it has to be a standardized one, which is problematic. Don't let no, we don't want to do that this morning. Yeah. So basically what we are saying, and even in Accra, so if you come into a cosmopolitan area like Accra, you may find in a basic school a class where you have Ewes, Gans, Fantis, Gonjas, Dangmes. So how does a teacher even teach? But even if she has to teach in Gonja, she will struggle. Yeah. So maybe that's the problem, because in other countries you have one dominant local language. And I think it's easier. Okay, this settles the controversy. Yeah.
Thank you.
For those who no more controversies. No more controversies. Okay, but tell us what your aspirations are. What do you look forward to? You've gotten Ghana's most outstanding teacher. I'm not going to guess your age, but you look young.
Thank you.
And I'm sure there's a lot of years ahead of you. What are you looking forward to?
Okay. So the number one that I'll always repeat is to be the first doctor in a basic school. Teaching in a basic school. Because
you want to acquire a PhD?
Yes.
In English language? Yes. And still teach in a basic school?
The foundation is so critical that I get some of my professors and doctors complain that, hey, the way the students write, it's as if they didn't even go to preschool or the junior high school. Now, I want to be around a table where I can influence decision, help put out strategies that can help to make the basic education better. So my number one aspiration is to be that mirror at that basic school that will champion change around the table. And I'm sure that, you know, in arts we say touch one, touch all. So if you're able to touch one,
you touch everybody.
You touch everybody.
That's true.
Okay.
People will not acquire the degree and then run away. I mean, I've got an I have to go to the university, I have to go to... What about those down there?
Yeah.
What change are you putting in place?
But you've actually drawn my mind to something.
Yeah.
We seem to keep the best at the matured level.
You see.
That's the mistake.
So they should pay me well.
that's what is worrying you.
Because you
see, talking about your professor saying, I had the opportunity to serve as a teaching assistant when I finished my degree at the Ghana Institute of Journalism, and I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I mean, and this is not to demean any of my colleagues. Like you're saying,
that's it.
That is when I realized that the foundation is very important.
Yeah.
I went to a government high school in Fantaman Girls, but by the time I had gotten there, I had received great experience at the foundation level. It was very easy for me to sail through.
Yeah.
My professor at the time, no, he's not a professor, my lecturer at the time, Dr. Tayman, when I picked the paper and I read through the verse, he's fancy, he said, "What shock woman?" And I said, "Yes," and he was like, "Yeah, that's what you people write for us." Yeah. And it's sad because this is the Institute of Journalism, but it paints a picture of what's happening across the board.
And I can say to the glory of God that for every learner that has passed through my hands over these years. You can't fail. You can't go.
You are giving me Mrs. Obing vibes. You're taking me to a point in my high school when I don't like it. Mrs. Obing, Mrs. Obing.
Of course. What?
That's true.
That's Mr. God for you.
Why are English teachers wicked? English and French.
No, not wicked. Disciplined. No.
Wicked.
No, change the wicked for disciplined. We are disciplined. Yes. We always want to be a little strict because it comes with the terrain, the kind of language, this thing that we teach. So when we apply a bit more strictness, it makes our learners very focused. Yes,
and
so
English
that's
is
one.
technical.
Very technical.
That's something that a lot of
very
people don't
technical.
realize.
So that's why we are sometimes a little bit strict, and people think we are wicked, but not wicked per se. You know,
Mrs. Obey will fling my book like that. Dennis, what is this? And she just throws the book away. And that's because she says, so she used to do, I don't know what the term for it is, but she used to assess us according to our capacities.
So that is one tool I use in the class, the individuality of each.
So someone can get an 8 over 10 and she will applaud the person, but if I get an 8 over 10, she's upset.
No.
Myself and
That's not good enough.
Anyway,
It's
I'm going back to my it's getting exciting for me, but Fatih,
before you come to Fatih, now the learners we have now, they don't like reading. And I think it's with most of us. And so what I do to get them to read is that I give them reading assignments. Yeah. You're not just going to read. When you read, you set your questions.
Rewrite a story.
Okay.
You set your own questions. So out of what you read, set questions out of it. It is out of those questions that I put together and I give it to them to answer. Okay. And as Fatih is saying, they rewrite the passage. Yeah.
Sometimes you make them even change the passage into a drama.
The wedding.
The story, turn it into a drama.
Wow. Fatih, tell us about your aspiration. She says she wants to be the first doctor teaching at the basic level. I don't know what your dreams
and
are.
be the champion. International, you know, around the
For me, first of all, I want to see more and more of my learners become doctors, become teachers, you know, because the reason why I'm still teaching is because of them. I have a lot of them that I met who were doing virtually, in fact, far below even average. They were into, some of them couldn't read. I sent some pictures. There was a particular guy who is now a sound engineer. He's also a musician, a music producer, and all, with his own studios. This guy couldn't read and write. And I met him in junior high 3. In junior high 3, you can imagine, just some few months to write BEC. So I just targeted his interest. I got to know that he was very good in music. He liked writing songs. So I spoke to him. I told him I'll help him to write his songs. So that got him interested in school again. He was an orphan anyway. So I started going for rehearsals with him. He got 2 other friends who were also interested in music.
You went for rehearsals with him?
Yes.
You went that far?
Yes, I started even teaching him how to sing.
Language?
All because of English language.
Oh, goodness.
Teaching him how to sing, came up with some songs. I spoke with a owner, that is Miss Zilke. She is the founder of this thing, Kinder Paradise in Prom Prom. It's a private institution. So she paid for the studios for us. We went to the studio, did the recording, everything. I took the music to Unique FM around that time, Obunu FM. They played it on air for the guy. They even played it in Lufthansa Air.
I'm having goose pimples.
For the boy. Today he's a renowned musician, Kingsley.
Okay.
Meanwhile, he couldn't read and write around that time. So that's one of my aspirations. I want to see every single learner of mine to become a teacher, a doctor, I have most of them in abroad anyway, who are now engineers and they're working outside. I have some of them who are in final year school, UST, UCC, and they're all doing very well. When I met them, they couldn't read and write. That's what I want to see. And then also, now I'm into training.
Okay.
With IELTA, that's International English Language Teachers Association. So we do more of online webinars and then on-site webinars. So what I have, or what I've been able to do over the years, I'm trying to take it down to the English language teachers. Currently, we have over 500 members, full-time members, who are on board with us, and we are almost every month we are giving them online webinar skills that can help them, because that's what I've realized that most teachers are lacking. If they could have the skill, the basic skills to help them to teach the content, to go down very well with our learners. And so that is what I am seeking to do now. Yeah.
What can I say? It's been an exciting time
Thank
for
you.
the two of you. And thank you so much for what you do. That story about the sound engineer, just, I think is the icing on the cake. And I mean, I don't want to say too much. I'll just let our audience, you know, soak up the story. But if you're watching, you want to say something?
Yes. One of the major things that gives me joy is the fact that you step out and you see the young ones excelling.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a mother of doctors.
Yes.
I'm a mother of lawyers. I can confidently say that my learners are becoming lawyers and doctors because they're in the law school, they're in the medical school. I have some of them who have completed engineering. Some of them, I got people to sponsor their school. Some of them who have ventured into apprenticeship. Ones I identify in the class that this is your area. I get to your parents. I go down to their homes to speak to them. See, help the child in this regard. And to the glory of God, for me, he's the one I will give glory to, because they listen. And all those who have listened today, the kids, the young ones, the learners, are getting their place and their seat around the table. Also, this project, Joy, you have to come on board. The RAW Global Initiative. So read and write. So RAW, R, read, the A and the W is right. RAW Global Initiative, where we go down to the communities. During the lockdown, for instance, some of the learners didn't have access to technology. So I had to bring back my old students. I brought them together, and then we went to champion that cause to teach and help them read. And so for teachers out there, there are a lot we can do to help the young ones. We shouldn't, I'm not a politician yet. We shouldn't always say that we are waiting for the government, the government. We are all part of the government, because the government has got a role to play, parents have got a role to play, teachers have got their role to play, as well as all others involved. And so if collectively we are able to put the little that we have together, then the dream Ghanaian child will be seen.
We'll see it again.
And that is Ghana's most outstanding teacher.
Thank you.
Conversation for us. Stella Jima Labi is the best national teacher for 2022.
Yeah.
She teaches literature at the Adenta Community School. We also had Fatih, who is with the Bupe Girls Model School in the Savannah region, and they've been doing a tremendous work in their various institutions. Thank you, ladies, for coming, and we wish you all the best. So much. I pray that your aspirations come true, and even more for you. And definitely we'll have this conversation.
Need more sponsorship.
Maybe I should visit your school.
Please do. We will be so glad. My girls will be waiting for you on that. So look through the camera and tell them.
I haven't been to Bupe before. Maybe this should be on
the Savannah region. Yes, we'll be looking forward to seeing you.
I've been to the it was the Upper West at the time and the Upper East. They were not split, but I've been to the Upper West, Upper East, North thing. But I think I should go to Bupe.
I'll join you on that ride.
We should bring her along, please.
All right, and this morning, this has been our conversation about teaching, the experience. But clearly, all you can see is that these are women who are passionate about what they do. And I want to believe that there are actors and players within the political space who have seen the sacrifices the teachers are making, the passion, the dedication that they put into their work. And so you know that they also deserve a pat on the back. We'll be back with more here on the AM show. Do stay. For staying here on the AM show. We're still staying on education, but this time we're going into the arena of contests and quizzes, because the National Science and Maths Quiz is back, and we're starting today with the preliminary contest. And we have the organizers here, Primetime, and sponsors, Absa Bank. Cyril Nai is head of communications and sponsorship at Absa Bank. Thank you for coming, Cyril.
Thank you.
Samuel Nate Ajo is Associate Client Service Director at Primetime Limited. So from speaking to two ladies, I'm speaking to two gentlemen now. Thank you for joining us in the studio. It's a balance. You see, this morning we sorted everything out. Okay. So This has been an exciting ride for the NSMQ.
Yeah.
We'll delve into the new things that I've heard the song and I love it.
Okay.
I've been grooving to it since it was released. Also, you're staying in Kumasi.
Yeah.
Cyril, you are with Absa, so we'll come to the sponsorship bit and all the goodies for this. But let me start with Samuel.
Yeah.
I know the plan was to move around because we stayed in Accra for a while, but as a Kumasi, I am there. You know, you're loving the feeling Kumasi.
Yes.
Tell us what informed the decision to go back.
Well, I mentioned earlier this morning that in venturing in the space, I mean, you try to the first time. I think that it's important to go another shot, give it another shot again to make sure you have you're firmed up on the ground, so that at any point in time, if you have to come back, you're cool with it. So yes, we tried Kumasi, and it was very exciting. I mean, it went beyond our expectations. I mean, to consider how the people in the Ashanti region, for that matter, also received the program. I mean, it was beyond our expectation. But then naturally, there are one or two things you think that, look, go back again and explore and see that you've tied all the knots, and so that anytime at all, if there's a time for you to come back again, you are solid on the ground. So we need to ensure that, look, we are firm on the ground. That's why we have to go back to Kumasi again and see how it's going to pan out for again.
So beyond the new music, the location, which is not so new because we did it last year, but we'll still take it as something which is new. What else are we expecting for this year's edition?
Well, this year, one of the new things that we have done, in a way, I mean, I would say that we introduced 9 runners-up from the regional qualifiers. They had opportunity of coming back again to, even though they did not win their contest, to compete at that level. Why? Because of the scores that the performance scores that they attained. We have schools like Achimota School, Mankranso. I mean, people would never have heard of the school Mankranso, but then here's a school that scored 47 points and then not being able to make it to the national championship. So obviously, we think that it's important for us to give those kind of schools an opportunity. They are rewarded at the national, regional level when you win your contest. If you're able to make 40 points and above, you get extra cash prizes. So we felt that, look, it's important to give them a platform because they have shown that they have the clout, they have shown that they have the zeal, the staff to be able to show what we expect of schools at the national championship. That's why we have given them that opportunity. So that's one of the fresh things that's happening.
Great. Let me come to you, Cyril. Absa has been doing this for some time. Well, first of all, tell us how Absa is doing and why you are still deciding to support the NSMQ.
Why we are still deciding? Why we are still? I mean, for us, it is all about bringing possibilities of young people in Ghana to light through STEM education. We believe STEM education is still very relevant in igniting our economic transformation, and we are happy as a bank to be at the forefront of this. Secondly, if you look at the competition, it kind of ignites some passion, which brings everybody together, all Ghanaians. And for us, we are always happy to support that which would promote unity, promote a good environment for our economic development and growth. Because it's not all just about the money, it's about helping our communities and society to be a better place for all of us. So these are two key things. Then it's also the determination, the relentless determination of the contestants. I mean, the work they put in. It all ties in to our Africanist spirit of getting things done. And for us, we are happy to be at the forefront of this, helping our students to prepare for the future world of work and also prepare our communities also for future. Because if you look at the kind of things going on, STEM is a huge foundation on which we can leapfrog our economic development.
I like that. So beyond sponsoring the NSMQ proper, what are the fine details of how this initiative Absa has, you know, supporting NSMQ because you have a heart for STEM education? What do the students gain you know, from APSA? What are the plans that you have for the contestants?
So for us is the whole transformation that we see in them, the innovative. So, you know, now STEM has also come out separately, thanks to our support as well. We now have the STEM Festival, and if you look at the kind of innovation, so it's just moving, not staying with just the competition, but moving into the practicality of what they are actually studying, actually putting in solutions that can help solve societal problems. We are also supporting them. You know, economics is and funding, finance is very important in everything we do. So another thing we bring on board from our expertise is the financial literacy.
Okay.
In addition to that, we have the Ignition account that is supports students.
Okay.
It has a lot of freebies. As a student, we understand their situation. They are not earning, but they get some money that they need to manage well. So the Ignition account helps them to do that. And we bring on board our Ready to Work program also, which is supposed to bridge the gap between education and the work environment. So it gives them soft skills in terms of people skills and other things. All this we bring along for our students.
Sarah, I'll come back to you for your brief message to the fans and the contestants, even as we begin the prelims today. But let me come back to you, Samuel. Unfortunately, COVID appears to be rearing its head again. We're seeing the numbers rise, infections all over the place. I know that COVID affected the quiz largely in terms of production, in terms of how many people we could allow to even come and support and cheer your schools on. What's the arrangements like this year?
Well, thank you once again. We still are enforcing the rules. So we're still going strictly according to the safety rules. And so we ensure that people who visit the auditoriums to watch the contest, for instance, are masked. We have the sanitation stations all around. We also try to ensure that the workstations are all sanitized before, during, and after the contest. And so whatever step that has to be taken, whatever measure that has to be put in place to ensure that everyone is safe has been put in place. So, I mean, with regards to COVID, we are doing everything possible to ensure that we are all safe whilst we enjoy the National Science and Math.
And how are we doing the prelims this year? Are we doing it in the regions, or you're doing all of the...
Yes, it's for this year, it's all been done in Kumasi. We have 3 venues that we are having the contest. That's we have the Sarah Minsa, all on KNUST campus, Sarah Minsa Auditorium, the Kumapli Auditorium, and then the KNUST SHS. So for all of which these venues... What
informed your decision to keep... because initially we were in Tamale, I think last year at a point, somewhere. We did it at different places in the central region, I think, and then in Kumasi. But why bring in all of it now to one district?
Well, you know, originally that's how it has been, but because of COVID, that's why we had to go that way. But when it was relaxed, we felt that, look, let's go back to... But even then, we ensure that we don't stay for so long in camp as compared to the previous years.
All right, so we'll be wrapping up shortly. What should we expect? I mean, in terms of participating virtually, or, you know, if people want to come in person, maybe I'm driving through any of these halls, my school is competing, what can I do? How do I become a part of this? Either watching it on TV, listening on radio. What exactly are the arrangements?
Yeah, so we are on social media. When you visit our pages, NSMQ pages, it's all there. Then again, if you want to visit the venues, you're also there that you could go. But of course, as I mentioned, you need to ensure that you observe the safety protocols before you can be allowed into the venue. And so, if you also want to watch it, follow it also, you can also follow it on JoyNews, on Joy FM, and the multimedia Facebook pages, among others. And so, on all NSM pages and on all Joy multimedia stations, TV stations, and radio, you can follow NSMQ there.
Right. So, what's your message to the fans and the contestants?
For us, we have been in this since the beginning of the year, following through the regionals, the championships, and it has been full of thrills and exciting. And I can assure fans that we should expect more. The nationals is going to be on another level, and we just want to wish, especially contestants, for us, as a business, we believe in being passionate, brave, and ready at all times. So may the school that is passionate, ready, and brave actually exhibit this and win. And we would keep on supporting and cheering them on.
Right, so we will be bringing you updates on the prelims today. There are some 9 contests happening today, and
9 for each venue. There are 3 venues, so it will be 9 contests in each venue.
Yeah, 9 contests at each venue. All right, okay. So we'll be bringing you all the updates on that. I know that in Fantipim, at Chimota, St. Thomas Aquinas, they're starting from the prelims, right?
Yeah, they also.
That has not been the case. They usually have an easy way. So we wish you all the best, all these schools, and you see how it goes for you. But I've been speaking to Cyril Nai. He's head communications and sponsorship at Absa Bank, and Samo Nate Ajo, associate client service director, Primetime Limited. Now, when we return from the quick breather we're about to take, the Energy Ministry and partners are organizing the Clean Cooking Forum. Benjamin Akakpo will be hosting them right after this Tuesday.
Well, from talking about the teachers and NSMQ, let's talk about cooking clean. The Energy Ministry and partners are organizing the Clean Cooking Forum. This forum provides an exceptional platform for discussions and networking opportunities beyond the formal agenda. This year's forum will facilitate a range of action-oriented side meetings led by the Clean Cooking Alliance and partners working in Ghana and around the world. And that's why it's our pleasure this morning to host Mohammed Aminu Lukmanu, CEO, Ghana Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves and Fuels. Mr. Lukmanu, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
We also have Eva Lako Nate, Programs Coordinator, Ghana Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves and Fuels. Both of them join us for this conversation. Eva, good morning to you as well.
Good morning.
Tell me, so looking at all that you've come with, I realize that there are some very important international components tied to what you do. The SDGs are roped in, COP27, which is coming forth in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, also roped in. But before we get there, tell me about your outfit, the Ghana Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves and Fuels. I know the Clean Cooking Alliance started in 2010. How long has this been in existence here in Ghana? I'll start with you, Mr. Lukmanu.
Thank you very much, and good morning to our listeners. The Ghana Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves was actually formed in 2013.
Okay.
And with the support of the Clean Cooking Alliance, then Global Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves, and the government partners led by the Energy Commission.
Okay.
So this is how the local alliance was established, and working alongside the Global Alliance in promoting access to clean energy and clean cooking generally.
Okay, so this is basically an offshoot of the Clean Cooking Alliance.
Sure, certainly.
Great. We'll be getting into the details of what we can expect this year as the forum holds this latest meeting in Accra, the Kempinski Hotel, and then the Accra International Conference Center. But do tell me, when you look at our situation, when it comes to the SDGs and where we find ourselves, it's interesting that a lot of the time when we talk about global warming and all of those, we fail to pay attention to clean cooking. How important is that, Eva?
Yeah, so clean cooking is very important. As a woman, I am going to base it on myself.
Right, practically.
Practically. So dominantly, it is we, the women, who mostly cook in Ghana. And then if you also look at our way of cooking in Ghana, you need to get some kind of particular model of cook stove to be able to cook what kind of food you expect to enjoy at the end of the day. And then when you look at the urban areas, you can see that a lot of people are adapting to LPG, and then some people are also using improved cook stoves that uses firewood and charcoal at the same time. But if you go to the rural areas, a lot of the people over there, a lot of the indigenous people over there use the 3 stone old model way of cooking. And then though there are a lot of noise about cooking, and then there are a lot of people talking about the fact that cooking must not kill. When you inhale a lot of smoke, you are going to die from it because you are going to fall sick and other. Still, a lot of people don't know that when you go there and you tell them, they tell you that, oh, my grandmother, far years back, she has been using this kind of cooking method, and then she lived for 125 years before she died. So why are you now telling me that I need to change and then use this kind of cooking method? But our way of living have changed. Our eating habits have changed as compared to those in the old ages. So we need to make a lot of noise about improved ways people need to cook. There are people who are going to say that, okay, it's very expensive to buy LPG. I am in the village and then my weekly income is just 20 cedis. How can I fill my gas when it's finished? That's why there are other improved cook stoves on the market that you can still use firewood, but use very less. You can use a firewood stove, but you are going to not inhale smoke because it's designed in such a way that it's not going to affect the person who is cooking. So improved cook stoves in the market, and a lot of people can go in to get it. There are a lot of organizations who are helping the rural folks who would not be able to purchase the 100% amount. And then as the program goes on, we'll mention their names.
Tell me, Mr. Lukmanu, so as an alliance, do you have channels where people can actually access such clean cook stoves? Do you have some of them that you give out, some of them that you sell or something? What is it like? Because clearly that is one of the ways to go to prevent people from the health consequences and our environment from the damage that could be done to it.
That's right. Thank you very much. I think it's a collaborative effort. The effort was initiated by government far back in 1989 and with the introduction of the National LPG program. Government had given free cylinders and burners to Ghanaian households over the years. And as we speak, there is a program that is being implemented by the Ministry of Energy, distributing 500,000 locally designed cook stove model. And just last month, government had launched the National LPG Promotion Program in Obuasi to distribute over 500,000 LPG stoves to Ghanaian households. Government had also launched the cylinder recirculation model in 2017 to take off the burden of buying cylinders from poor households in Ghana. So there are programs, both public and private models. We have quite a number of companies that are deploying or designing and selling the stoves on the market. Just to mention a few, the Japan model is the popular one. There is Holy Cook, produced by Man and Man in Kumasi. We have Obahima. We also have Cook Clean, Cookmate. These are some of the models locally designed and they are on the market. We have Ghana Cylinder Manufacturing Company. We have Muntals Engineering in Kumasi. They are designing both LPG and biomass cook stoves for the Ghanaian market. There are works on ethanol by EcoNexus and then ICs.
Maybe even before we get into the ethanol bit, because that's a conversation, another conversation on its own. I don't want us to stray there yet. I've seen some of these cylinders where, you know, they are fitted with, what would you even call that? You see, with a burner, so to speak. So directly from the cylinder, there's a burner, and then to simplify matters as well. But even when we talk about gas, we all know it's one of the, well, maybe better fossil fuels. You know, we can get it from the crude oil production chain. And now we're fortunate enough to be producing crude oil, maybe not in the biggest of quantities. But the point is, even now, on the back of everything that is happening, gas prices have, if not tripled, quadrupled. I mean, across certain belts. You go to certain places and what they were buying for maybe 50 cedis is now almost 120, 130 cedis. How do you convince someone who uses charcoal that, look, the best thing for our environment and for your health is to go the way of gas. What are some of the things that you tell them?
Thank you very much. I think the hikes in the price is not only with LPG. Charcoal prices has equally shot up. And I remember just about last year, the amount of charcoal used by households have actually gone up. And then that also means more distractions for our forest. You use 4 to 6 units of wood to produce equivalent unit of charcoal. So there is more distraction in producing charcoal than even the use of the firewood. So the challenge has to be with the unit of measure in terms at the point of sale. When you are buying charcoal, you can buy for 1 cedi, for 2 cedi. But you can't carry your cylinder, even the 3 kg, to go and buy 2 units of fuel. So if we extend that model that allow people to buy charcoal in smaller unit to the LPG market, that is possible. And there has been a study both in Ghana and in Kenya where it was proven that you needed about half of the amount you spend on charcoal to buy LPG for equivalent cooking.
So in other words, in reality, it's cheaper using LPG compared to, I mean, let's take out the consequences. The consequences are harsher on the side of charcoal. But you're saying that basically if we get our act right, it would be cheaper to use LPG than to use charcoal.
That's right. The study was done by EnviroFit Ghana and then Kenya. They did the study both in Ghana and in Kenya, and that was the evidence they used to roll out the pay-as-you-go. So that model targeted poor households and in the slum areas where people buy smaller unit of charcoal on daily basis. So they provided meters on the LPG cylinder where you could use your mobile phone to buy 1 cedi or 1 shilling, 2 shilling unit of LPG to cook, and make savings of about half of the money they were using to buy the charcoal. So it's been proven. What we need to do now again is to do that empirical study, not only comparing LPG and charcoal, but also electricity, because electricity is everywhere and we believe it's cheap. But if
so
you
electric cooking stoves and the rest.
That's right. So if you look at how much you pay for light bill monthly and the gadgets that you use at home, and you divide that over 1 month, and you compare that with the amount of charcoal you buy daily, just on this simple analysis, you would come to see that it would equally be cheaper to cook with electricity if we promote it.
Okay. I know you had wanted to talk about ethanol, but let me let Eva have a first bite of that. Even as we talk about biofuels and all of that, what can we know about ethanol? How is it one of the solutions we should be looking at? And I'll give you a bite on that as well.
Thank you.
Ethanol is one of the cleanest fuels that we can use in Ghana here. In terms of producing the ethanol, there are a lot of organizations who are also using the same raw material to produce it, which is the
sugarcane?
The cassava.
Okay, so there are different things we can use to get that,
there are
right?
different things you can use. And then cassava is the major one that mostly people use in producing the ethanol.
Okay.
And then the other thing is that it's the discussion still comes back to the price, like how we are having the discussion on the LPG, where people are talking about the price hike of it. But when you look at the risk factor, where people are afraid of using LPG, there are a lot of people who are not adapting to LPG because they are scared it's going to blow or anything can happen to them when they are cooking in their rooms. The ethanol, can be another solution to those people who want to use improved cook stoves, who want to cook clean, but are not able to use the LPG. So ethanol is a great one. And then to touch a little on the charcoal compared to the ethanol, in the rural areas, the charcoal, when we use charcoal, we leave the charcoal in the coal pot to die off after we finish cooking. So we waste a lot of the charcoal after we are done cooking, and then it makes the price of you consuming more charcoal very high. But if you are using LPG or ethanol, when you are done, you put it off. You wouldn't, and then you can be able to use it. So saving the ethanol and then saving the LPG is very effective as compared to the charcoal.
Let me come to Mr. Lukmanu on that briefly, because I also want us to look at how key government is. Governments across the board, but our government, because we are looking at our own localized situation, is in aiding this drive, even as we look at the Clean Cooking Forum 2022. But your quick bit on ethanol.
Ethanol, thank you. Like Eva was saying, ethanol is actually safer in terms of accidents and managing the...
So ethanol, we're basically alcohol, right? Alcohol. I mean, some people may be thinking, what are they talking about?
Yes.
It's alcohol.
It's alcohol, and that comes with the competition, because we consume a lot of alcohol in this country. And then we rely highly on cassava for our meals. So if you suggest ethanol for fuel, you are indirectly introducing a competition. And I know the Food Right Group would not be excited about promoting that. But there are a lot of feedstock that we can use for ethanol production. We can use sugarcane, we can use sweet millet, and other feedstock that we have potential for developing it. So it would have been exciting, because government had promoted planting for food and jobs. So it would have been very opportune for us to identify a particular feedstock to produce for fuel. And that goes with quite a number of jobs across the country with ready market. Government had put up warehouses across district. And we can easily link this with the production to aggregate the produce from the various parts of the country. And government had been promoting one district, one pack factory. Then we put up distilleries to process this. So this is one single product or initiative that will connect a lot of government initiatives and deliver the incomes and livelihood opportunities for our people. So it is doable. There has been initiative. We have one young man, Prince Essel, who is producing it. I know of some researchers in tech and UDS who have piloted and come out with good solutions for ethanol production. Currently, we import. We have Southline Coast, which is a new initiative coming into the country. They come with they import the ethanol at the moment, but they have acquired large tracts of land in central region to begin producing cassava for their factory.
That purpose.
And they want to encourage outgrowers to support the scaling of that initiative.
So we know definitely that government is key in this endeavor to unlocking the full potential of all these things that you're telling me about. And that is why we are having the Clean Cooking Forum 2022. Between the 11th, which is tomorrow, and the 13th, there'll be major events at the Kempinski Hotel, and on the 14th at the Accra International Conference Center. Give us some scope on that. I'll start with you. You also give us, maybe you can tell us what exactly will happen on D-Day, the 14th, which is Friday. But between the 11th and the 13th, what can we expect?
Yes, between the 11th and 13th, and even today, there are meetings that have started. The Global Alliance for Clean Cooking, which is operating under the UN Foundation, is actually organizing this event. We hosted one in 2015, and for the position or posture of Ghana in promoting clean cooking, we are fortunate to be hosting it the second time. And then, so we are expecting...
So it's been 7 years since we last hosted it.
Yes, the last one was in Nairobi in 2019.
Right.
And then in 2017, it was in India. So we are expecting about 1,000 guests from across the globe, and we are expecting people to come from over 50 countries.
Wow.
So we would invite Ghanaians to once again demonstrate the popular Ghanaian hospitality towards the guests who are coming. And then we have encouraged them to engage with the Ghanaian stakeholders, Ghanaian community. I'm aware that some of the guests have already visited Agogloshi Market under the guidance of the Ministry of Energy to see what happens on the clean cooking market, the technologies we have. They visited some homes and then a restaurant to see how we cook here. So it's exciting that we are sharing our experience with our global partners, and we encourage the local participants in the event. There is exhibition, and GACO is mounting a booth for the Ghanaian exhibitors who wish to showcase what they have to the global participants. So this is how the scope of the event.
That's how it's shaping up. But we also know that on the 14th, it will go a notch higher to the Accra International Conference Center. Not the venue, but in terms of scope and the people who will be participating. Tell us a bit about that. Okay, so
Ministry of Energy with Ghana Alliance for Clean Coastal GACO is capitalizing on the Global Alliance for the forum to organize a Ghana Day. That's a post-conference workshop on Friday, that's the 14th, to invite anybody who is interested in 100% access to clean, 100% clean cooking in Ghana and then South Africa and then the whole world, to come to the Accra International Conference Center, come and then mingle with other stakeholders from different parts of the country and then outside the country to talk about clean cooking in Ghana. There are stakeholders who are investors, there are some who are researchers, there are some who are interested in just knowing what clean cooking is about. So this is an open organization program where when you go to GACO LinkedIn page, just search GACO, go on the LinkedIn page and then fill a form over there.
What is your LinkedIn page? What is the name or the...
Just search GACO and you...
So that is GACCO?
Yes, please.
GACCO?
GACCO.
All right, so look for GACCO on LinkedIn. Go ahead.
Yes, then you will find a form, you fill it out, and then you will be reserved a seat to come and then join, mingle with people. And then we will be very lucky to have the second lady, Hajia Samira Baumia, and then
Minister of Energy?
Yes, please.
Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh.
Yes, please. They will be there, and then a lot of other important guests will be there. If you want to invest in the clean cooking sector, you have no idea, you don't know what to do to get into the space, just come there on Friday. It's going to start 8 a.m. and then by 5 p.m. we'll close the event.
Is there a number people can call as well? Just in case.
Yes, please. A number to call. You can call 0241 900 125, and then you speak to me, and then I'll help you out with anything you need to come to the program.
All right. Mr. Lukman, final words?
Yes, thank you very much. We want to show our appreciation to His Excellency the President for accepting to host this alongside the Clean Cooking Alliance. A number of meetings have been held at the Jubilee House in preparations towards this forum, led by the Chief of Staff herself. So we thank the government of Ghana for bringing this opportunity, because it's coming with huge investment potentials and opportunities for Ghanaian partners. And we encourage Ghanaians and Ghanaian businessmen and entrepreneurs to look around and be able to take advantage of these opportunities that are coming in country. And then, yes, with the participants, please, we encourage you to explore, to strike deals, to learn new ways, new perspective and initiative for the benefit of Ghana Mother Ghana. Thank you very much.
In some 20 seconds, final words, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, clean cooking must not kill, and you need not go to the hospital for the doctor to tell you that, oh, you've inhaled a lot of smoke, that's why you are having this challenge. Or you don't even smoke, but they tell you you are having the lung cancer because you are cooking and then smoke is entering into your system. So please, let's read about clean cooking. Let's come on Friday to the Accra International Conference Center, network, learn more about clean cooking, and then let's all embrace the agenda for 100% clean cooking nationwide. Thank you.
And get your clean cook stove.
Get your
clean cook stove.
Yes.
So many dynamics in there. We're thinking of ethanol and all of that. It's all about clean cooking. It will save our environment. It will save us in terms of our health and maybe the burden on our health system in the country. And don't you forget, it is GACCO, G-A-C-C-O on LinkedIn. Go there, check them out, get involved, and let's do this together. Thank you so much, Mr. Lukman and Ms. Nate, for coming through. Mohammed Aminu Lukmanu is CEO, Ghana Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves and Fuel. There's also Ivanate, who is Programs Coordinator for the same outfit. Once more, thank you for coming. And we wish you the very best.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll be expecting you there.
Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I just might pass by.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for passing through. Well, after the break, the International Defense Exhibition and Conference will be held on the 11th and 12th of October. That is tomorrow and the day after. This is under the auspices of the Ghana Armed Forces. More on that right after the break. Do stay.
Some 15 minutes to the top of the hour, you're still watching the AM show, and it's now time to tell you about the International Defense Exhibition and Conference, which will be held on the 11th and 12th of October. And it's under the auspices of the Ghana Armed Forces. I've been joined by Naval Captain Michael Adolabi. He's Director of Public Relations at the Ghana Armed Forces. Good to have you here, sir. Sorry, Naval Captain.
Thank you very much. I'm most grateful.
I lived at Burma camp, so I'm always reminded to address military men by their titles and not others. So thank you for joining us. Tell us what IDEC is about.
IDEC is, in the full meaning, International Defense Exhibition and Conference. It is about international collaborative efforts in respect of handling terrorism and transnational organized crime.
I liked a bit on terrorism because I was going to go there because this has been major this year where in the middle part of the year we received quite a bit of a scare with all the news. We were receiving certain videos that were purported to be from neighboring countries showing people moving into Ghana through unapproved routes. And so, I mean, this is really important for us, is it? To tell us what's in it for us as a host for this international program.
Well, Ghana plays a lead role in respect of ensuring maintenance of law and order and in terms of peacekeeping, trying to restore calm. And at the same time, when it comes to terrorism, it is important to note the downward trend of the terrorism or violent extremism coming from the Sahel towards the coastal states. And Ghana being also a lead in respect of the Accra Initiative, which is a collaborative mechanism to ensure peace and security and also to avert the trend of terrorism. It is important that we take this lead role and in bringing in international partners for us to deliberate, put out strategies that we can deal with these menace.
And so, I mean, just to help us understand, is it a rotational event? Why has Ghana been chosen and why are we hosting it at this time?
Well, it is not a rotational event. Ghana Armed Forces for the past years, we started with this Coastal Maritime and African Surveillance Maritime Conference in 2014. Then we moved on to the International Maritime Defense Exhibition, which later included the Air Force. The Army also has hosted this armored vehicles and future fires conference before. So we already have that sort of expertise in terms of handling such international conferencing. And therefore, we have continued to play that lead role, and therefore we took it upon ourselves that we could host it in conjunction with Great Minds Events and also the Gulf of Guinea Maritime Institute to host one of a bigger magnitude that involves the Army, Navy, and Air Force to deal with a particular subject which is of concern to us, which is terrorism.
Correct. What's the program like? Because now you talk about armored vehicles. I'm imagining that we will see a display of what the military has. Tell us basically what the program outline will be like and what events will take place.
Well, for the first part of the program, that is on the day one, the agenda normally that we're going to have is the participants coming in, then you have our guest of honor coming in to officially open the program. Then we start with the presentations. The first one is based on the theme itself, that is strengthening international collaboration in combating terrorism and transnational organized crime. There's a presentation on that. Then we have a panel discussion by experts in respect of strategies, speaking on terrorism as a whole and also counter strategies for combating terrorism. Then we have what we call the industry sessions. The industry sessions is where we come in here, where we have people coming up with technology and innovative ways that can be applied in dealing with terrorism and transnational organized crimes. So there you have exhibitors also present, coming up to show you the technologies that can be adapted in respect of fighting terrorism and transnational organized crime. So there will be exhibition of some of these equipment by the industry players and military solution providers. So those presentations, panel discussions continue. Then on the day 2, the day will begin with the Chief of Defense Staff of Ghana speaking on Ghana's efforts in curbing terrorism. You know, the CDS is also the chair of the Accra Initiative countries, so it is a lead position that he holds there in respect to speak on that particular subject. Then we continue with the other subjects on transnational organized crime itself. Then subsequently we will have the 3 services, the chiefs of Army, Navy and Air Force hosting their counterparts so that at the service headquarters or the service levels, they can also come up with
and when you say counterparts, you mean other heads from different countries?
Yes, so we have about 5 chiefs of defense staff, 5 chiefs of army, 5 or 6 chiefs of air force, all coming from different countries who are all going to be participants. So we have a lot of VVIPs and attendees and various experts all coming to speak on the subject.
When you spoke about the program for day 1, you mentioned exhibitors and participants. Who exactly are these people?
The participants are those that we've invited.
Okay.
And
strictly by invitation?
Yeah, strictly by invitation. And of course, there are some persons who are stakeholders who would have to be there. They would also have to come and see what is happening and also contribute to it, because we have open discussion forums on especially terrorism and transnational organized crime on the second day. But the exhibitors are those who are coming up with this technology and also equipment that can be applicable in terms of the fight against terrorism and transnational organized crime. So they will give you exhibition and presentations on some of these equipment and how they can be utilized in this fight.
So we've spoken about why it's important to organize this program. You've told us how it's going to pan out. But what are your expected outcomes and your objectives?
First, the objective is that when you have in-person discussions to strategize on dealing with something like terrorism and transnational organized crime, these are areas in terms of security that transcends borders, and therefore unilaterally you cannot do it alone, and therefore you need your partners and other stakeholders in other countries to be involved. So when you are able to get them at a table as a sitting, you are able to break those barriers that you have to have in terms of communication on phone. But in person speaking, you are able to strategize. Then the strategies that are adopted becomes applicable, and you have to be also to be able to implement them. So that is one of the main objectives, and the expected outcomes is that the strategies will be implemented going forward.
Let me just put you on the spot, just a little. This issue about terrorism, like I mentioned, in the early and middle part of the year, there were concerns about our preparedness for in fighting the threat of terrorism. What would you say our level of preparedness is now?
In terms of preparedness, we are at the top level in terms of the armed forces, also working on the auspices of national security. And so in terms of the northern part of the country, we have a proper deployment. It's one of our operations that we refer to as Operation Conquered Fist. And the persons have been resourced with the modern equipment to be able to handle such infiltration at that particular point. So we are on watch at our borders, and we are not sleeping, we are working day and night to ensure that we don't get that scourge of terrorism coming in the country. Apart from that, we are also collaborating a lot with our other neighboring countries in terms of picking up leads and information, sharing information, so that we may be able to deal with any person who infiltrates at any point in time.
And we'll be wrapping up briefly, but there's also Operation See Something, Say Something. There are those who have said that it's just been mere rhetoric, and that, I mean, you're the military, you don't necessarily engage with civilians. Your job is to defend the nation as the police that deals with civilians. But how are you incorporating that part of the fight against terrorism, Operation See Something, Say Something?
Well, we engage with the people on the ground. It's part of the job that we do in terms of sensitization, especially the border communities, as to what they should look out for. suspicious movements, suspicious activities.
So what exactly do you tell them? That's been the challenge of critics. They say, you just say suspicious elements, but have you broken it down to them? What exactly are the fine details when you go to speak to these people?
You know, the See Something, Say Something campaign, the National Security came up with a sort of a booklet in terms of what you have to look out for. For instance, I'll just give you a few examples. You have maybe a facility close by your house and you don't know what happens there. You have to be observant. And if you notice suspicious movements at certain times of the day, the people coming there, they don't communicate with you. They are either speaking on phone, engaging some people. There are occasions you see somebody coming here, maybe an unauthorized or a security zone, somebody trying to take pictures when the person is not authorized. These are things that you should report. And we have people on the ground who report some of these things and the actions are taken quickly. So those things are bearing fruit.
So, I mean, from your point as the PR of the Ghana Armed Forces, your men are engaging in teaching these things to people around border communities?
Yes, because you have to work with them. Because some of them are very, very conversant with movements along their communities. And if you do not engage them, they might see something in their communities, they wouldn't even communicate with you. So on the ground, we have people who communicate with them on a daily basis, part of the sensitization, and they are also giving you vital information that you can use for your operations.
Run us through the theme of the event again.
Strengthening international collaboration in combating terrorism and transnational organized crime.
Thank you so much for your time here this morning.
Thank you so much, I'm grateful.
And that is Naval Captain, right?
Yes, please.
Ado Labi there, telling us more about the IDEC program, which will be happening on the 11th and 12th of October. He's the PR of the Ghana Armed Forces, and he's just been giving us details and also, you know, talking briefly about the country's preparedness to deal with the threats of terrorism. That'll be all for this, today's program. Thank you so much for joining us. Apologies we couldn't get interactive, but you know, on Facebook and Twitter, we are JoyNews on TV. Leave your comments, send us a message, and we'll be glad to get back to you if need be, and to share your thoughts also with the rest of the world. But from Benjamin, the team, and myself, a very good morning to you once again. Enjoy the rest of your day. Do stay. News Desk is up next.